No, okay.
Could I ask everybody to please take a seat? We're going to call this gathering to order. Thank you all for being here this morning. Let me run through a couple things real quick. This is the 7th annual, believe it or not, Elected Leadership Summit that we're having today. I appreciate all the folks here. There's other people will be arriving shortly, so I wanted to real quickly just kind of go over a couple of things. Before we get the meeting started, I'm just going to ask you, we have a lot of members of the public here today. If you're not used to how we conduct things, we ask for you to be absolutely quiet in the room. If you need to talk to your neighbors, please go outside. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on silence. And we ask for you to sit here and enjoy the discussion today. I do want to remind everybody that there will be no public comment at today's summit. There'll be no votes taken. This is a discussion, and any comments or things that people want to talk about, they're welcome to come to any of our board meetings at our next scheduled meeting during open to the public and make your comments then. So what I'd like to do to get the show on the road here this morning, because we truly do need some prayer, I'm going to ask Mayor Joe Meek to lead us in the invocation and the pledge. So if you'd like to join us, I invite you to stand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We especially thank you today for this wonderful community that we are able to be a part of, Lord. Thank you for the many blessings that you give us. And thank you for bringing us together as a group of individuals that comprise Citrus County. Help us and guide us as we have our discussions today, that we are able to make positive impacts on this community, Lord. Lord, we especially thank you for our first responders, for our military. Please keep them safe, bring them home safe back to us. And again, Lord, we thank you for the wonderful community that is Citrus County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor Meek. So let's see. Let me run through a couple things here real quick. I want to kind of go over the schedule today. Everybody's been given a rough agenda, but we have some other issues taking place today. So what I hope we'll do is we're going to go around the table real quick here in a moment, do introductions. Most of us know each other, but just for members of the public, so we'll just introduce ourselves and who we represent by being here. I do want to make a little clarification, because even after 7 years, there seems to be some confusion. This is not a meeting of the constitutional officers. This is a meeting of the collegial boards in Citrus County. So sometimes in the past, people say, well, why isn't the clerk of the court here? Why isn't the sheriff here? And so on and so forth. We started this in the beginning because the people around this table are made up of boards that have to work together to get anything done. We're not independent constitutional officers. So just want to make that clear how we got to that. Also, we're not going to be taking scheduled breaks during the day except for one, which I'll talk about in a minute. Everyone knows where the restrooms are outside. What the plan is today is we're going to begin after our introductions real quick. We have FDOT here to do a presentation on the Turnpike, Northern Turnpike Connector. After that, there's an event over at the college that I believe is scheduled to start at 10. So I thought between 9:30 or whatever, when we get done asking questions of FDOT, those wishing to attend, we'll take a recess and those folks can go over to that. Then we'll resume when you return, and then we'll continue on with our discussion. Also, we have lunch scheduled at 12, and we'll do this as a working lunch so we can sit around the table and talk. I don't know what other folks may or may not be here, so if folks show up, great. If they don't, feel free to spread out and take up some of the extra room around the table here that we have. Let's see. So I think I've covered most of that. And again, I just want to remind everybody that this is designed as a kind of a shirt sleeve, casual go around the table, talk about things of interest. There's no set agenda items. Today, I think, in the past, each one of these events, we've kind of had a theme. Last year or the year before, it was more about mental health, that type of thing. I think the theme that I think we may be talking a lot today about is transportation and transportation issues and how it affects all of our organizations. So with that said, let's just quickly go around the table, and I will start over here with Councilwoman Vega, and we'll let everyone go around the table, introduce yourselves, who you're with, and then we will continue on.
Linda Vega, City Councilwoman of the City of Inverness.
Robert Holmes, on the City Council, City of Crystal River.
Cabot McBride, Inverness City Council.
Doug Dodds, County School Board.
Jeff Kennard, County Commission.
Gene Davis, Inverness City Council.
Holly Davis, County Commission.
Thomas Kennedy, Citrus County School Board.
Joe Meek, Crystal River Mayor.
Bob Plaisted, Inverness Mayor.
Ken Brown, Crystal River City Council.
Dave Ryan, Inverness City Council.
Scott Carnahan, Board County Commissioner.
Linda Powers, Citrus County School Board.
Cindy Guy, City of Crystal River Councilwoman.
And I'm Ron Kitchen with the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners. So again, welcome to all of us. Also, we have our administrators and managers here in the front row of the audience, and other members of various staffs here as well. So with that said, I believe we are pretty close to 6 minutes in. We're ready to go to FDOT. So you folks from FDOT ready for your presentation? And again, it's up to you how you want to work it, but I thought, take your time, do your presentation, and then I don't know, do you want us to interrupt you with questions, or you want us to wait until you're done for any questions from the board or whatever?
So, well, thank you, Chair Kitchen and members of the commission and all the council members. We really appreciate you having us here today. I'm Jennifer Stoltz from Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. We are part of the Florida Department of Transportation. And we are here today to give you an update on the Northern Turnpike extension. And Mr. Chairman, it's completely your choice if you would like us to pause as there are questions, hold to the end. That's completely up to you. We're going to try to keep it short because we really wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for you all to get your questions
Okay,
answered.
well, why don't we just let you do your presentation, because you may answer some of our questions during that, and then we'll open it up to everyone after that.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'd also like to introduce Billy Burke. He is our project manager with the consulting firm of HDR. And so I'm going to have him walk through some of the technical details, and then he and I will be available for any questions. All right, Billy.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for letting us present to you this morning. We do appreciate it. As you know by now, the FDOT is, can everyone hear me?
I can hear
I don't even know if the mic's on. The FDOT is conducting what we call an alternative corridor evaluation, or ACE, to evaluate the extension of Florida's Turnpike from its current location in Wildwood. And this would involve a construction of a limited access facility. So, I'm hitting the forward arrow. Maybe I need to aim it somewhere? Okay. Well, to not eat up too much time, I'll just tell you the agenda while we're working on that. So today you'll learn about the project description, the project development process, including the project phases, the project approach, the goals for the Northern Turnpike extension, the study area, the preliminary alternative corridors, the project schedule, and finally, how to learn more about the project, provide comments, and contact information. There we go. So that's the agenda. So the Northern Turnpike Extension project is a proposed extension from its northerly terminus in Wildwood to a logical and appropriate terminus as determined by FDOT per Senate Bill 100 of 2021. This is codified in section 339.66, subsection 6 of the Florida statutes. The legislature finds that the extension of Florida's Turnpike is in the strategic interest of the state. This project follows the FDOT project development process, which has 5 phases shown here. Today, we are in the first phase of the project development process, which is the planning phase. The project is currently being screened through the Efficient Transportation Decision-Making, or ETDM, process by environmental resource agencies. Input from the resource agencies will be used to refine the corridor alternatives to avoid and minimize impacts to environmentally sensitive features to the extent possible. The public kickoff meeting, which was held on December 7th and 9th, was also part of the planning phase where we are following the ACE, or Alternative Corridor Evaluation process. One goal of ACE is to eliminate unreasonable corridor alternatives before moving on to the next phase, which is the Project Development and Environment, or PD&E phase. This early public involvement is foundational as people share their preferences, and we use that valuable input to inform future decision making. The ACE process will evaluate alternative corridors with respect to project goals, and unreasonable corridors will be eliminated, resulting in a recommended alternative corridor for detailed evaluation during the PD&E phase, which is phase 2. During the PD&E study, various project alignments and their potential social and environmental effects will be evaluated. This slide shows a project approach. The initial step was to complete an analysis of the study area considering engineering factors, avoidance and minimization of environmental resources, as well as previous studies and reports, resulting in a set of preliminary alternative corridors. As mentioned previously, we are currently in the ACE process with ETDM screening underway. Corridor evaluation will be prepared considering ETDM comments, project goals, impacts to environmental resources, engineering factors, cost, and public input. The corridor analysis will use the evaluation criteria to measure the relative performance of each alternative corridor before eliminating non-viable alternatives and recommending a corridor that will advance the PD&E study. The PD&E study will involve collecting additional data, developing alternative alignments within the recommended corridor, and performing technical analyses. Additionally, the PD&E study will evaluate an option to not build the project, or no build alternative, against the build alternatives. After consideration of analysis results as well as agency and public input, a preferred alignment alternative or a no build alternative will be selected at the conclusion of the PD&E study. The goals of the Northern Turnpike extension are to enhance regional connectivity, accommodate increased travel demand associated with projected population growth, address regional congestion and safety issues, and improve hurricane evacuation. These goals are used to develop the project's purpose and need, which will be refined over time and become more detailed as the project advances through the planning phase, ETDM process, and into the PD&E phase. The study area covers Citrus County, Levy County, Marion County, and Sumter County. The beginning of the project is near the interchange of I-75 and Florida's Turnpike in Wildwood. The logical end of the project will be determined by FDOT during the ACE process. Future land use in the study area is grouped into 11 common categories shown on this map. These categories are agriculture, commercial, conservation, extractive or mining, industrial, mixed use, public, recreation, residential, water, and the farmland preservation area. These uses were synthesized from county comprehensive plans. The goal of enhancing regional transportation connectivity is driven by a need to increase mobility and provide route choices for regional travelers within, to and from, and through the study area. Adding an additional regional connection between Florida's Turnpike and other north-south highways will help provide more network options so travelers can better avoid congested I-75 and have additional route choices when making longer distance trips between Southeast Florida, Central Florida, Florida's Panhandle, Georgia, and Alabama. The enhanced connectivity will also provide residents and businesses from smaller communities easier and more reliable travel time access to critical destinations such as healthcare facilities, educational institutions, and airports. Improved connectivity will also improve access to local employment centers, which will encourage additional local business investments. Enhancing connectivity will also support local residents to have faster and more convenient access to jobs, as at least 44% of residents in the study area work more than 25 miles from their homes. Additionally, enhancing connectivity is needed to address future growth in statewide freight and commodity flows. The goal to accommodate increased travel demand in the study area is driven by projected increases in traffic, population, and employment. Darker shaded areas on this map represent locations where population growth is forecast to be largest within the study area. Additionally, part of the increased travel demand can also be attributed to tourism activity, where some visitors visit the study area while others continue en route to their final destinations, as the study area is the gateway to Central Florida. Overall, the existing and currently planned roadways in the state highway system within the study area have inadequate capacities to handle projected travel demand increase by 2050. The goal to address regional congestion and safety is driven by crashes and mobility issues in the study area. The red areas in the image show locations with high concentrations of crashes. Most of the urban areas, including segments of I-75, Florida's Turnpike, US 1998, and State Road 44, have high concentrations of crashes. Non-recurring congestion caused by crashes, disabled vehicles, congestion, adverse weather events, and planned special events is a major challenge within the study area. In fact, on I-75, major incidents, including crashes, cause all lanes to be closed on average once every 9 days. It is so problematic that it actually accounts for approximately 80% of the congestion that occurs on I-75. Evaluating how well the project meets the goal to improve hurricane evacuation times will rely upon an evaluation of travel times and shelter demand for local and regional evacuees within and through the study area. Analysis of a Category 5 storm shows that demand would exceed capacity on key evacuation routes such as I-75 and US 1998 and worsen evacuation traffic problems. Evaluating how well the project meets, So as you can see on this slide, there are four preliminary alternative corridors. They all start at the terminus of Florida's Turnpike at I-75. The northernmost route, Alternative Corridor North A, shown in red, goes through Marion County, starts at Citrus County, goes through Marion County, into Levy County, and ends just north of Chiefland at US 1998. The second alternative was chosen. It was actually the basis of the 1992 PD&E of Northern Turnpike Extension, and it was actually reevaluated in 1999 as a result of the Goethe Forest being acquired by the state. So that was the basis of Alternative Corridor North B. Alternative Corridor Central, again, starts at the terminus of Florida's Turnpike, goes along the Duke right-of-way, and then goes due west and ends either at US 1998 or the Suncoast Parkway. And finally, the southernmost alternative shown in yellow is Alternative Corridor South, which mostly follows US 44 over the county line, which is the Withlacoochee River, and then bypasses Inverness to the north, and then continues north to connect to Alternative Corridor Central. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise started the planning phase of the Northern Turnpike Extension project in October of last year. The project is currently in the early stages of development with the ETDM screening and alternative corridor evaluation underway. The PD&E study is scheduled for completion in spring of 2023. Your input matters to us in our decision-making process. For additional information or to make comments, visit the project website at www.floridasturnpike.com/NTE. Contact information for project representatives is also included and available on the project website. So this concludes our presentation for today. We really appreciate you letting us present here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's an excellent presentation. I just have one big question, and then we'll go around the table and hear what folks have to talk about. As you said in here, your PD&E is anticipated June or July this year. That's when you anticipate wrapping that up? When I looked at the schedule, that's what it looked like.
So the ACE process,
Right.
where we evaluate the 4 corridors, eliminate 3, and recommend 1 to move forward,
Right.
that is what is going to end this year. Late spring, early summer is
Okay,
when that's scheduled to end.
So my question is, what we hear, and I say we, I know our board and perhaps the other boards here as well, is what is our position? What is our position on, there's some folks that don't want anything built, doesn't matter where it's at. There's other folks that want it built no matter where it's at. And what I've been telling people is what I saw today is the first I've seen of these, detailed corridors. So at what point in time in your planning schedule are you looking for input from the elected folks in the community as to, just that input? And what does that input entail? Are you looking for something that says we prefer Route A over Route B, Route C? Or can you tell us how you see us involved in that process?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at this point, any detailed feedback that we get will help us refine these concepts and narrow down the number of items that we're evaluating. You saw these are sort of, broad highlighter, magic marker sized swaths. Most folks are used to seeing us a little further along when we get to the PD&E process where we have actual lines, right? And so typically we would be coming to the boards and asking for input on a preferred alternative at that point. Let's say we end up with, 3 or 4 lines on a map. Is there one of those that you like? Is there one that we need some refinement on? So typically it's when we're a little further along, but, we welcome input at any point in the process, but we are still very early on.
So there will be a point in time when you'll reach out to the boards and say, we'd like to get in front of the boards, present our findings, and get the board's feedback as to what we think about that.
Correct. When we get towards that public hearing at the end of the calendar year, so we'll have a round of public meetings for input when we get things narrowed down this summer, when we get into the PD&E, and then towards the end of the year, we'll be going towards a public hearing tentatively in December. And at that point, we'll have what's called a preferred alternative after we've done all the analyses, et cetera. Those time frame. The latter half of this year is probably when we would be seeking input on the preferred alternative. And going into that public hearing, knowing are there board and council support for these types of options?
Okay, and my final comment then, or question would be, would you recommend that, say, our board puts this like as maybe a workshop amongst our board to discuss what you've already given, or should we wait until you have a more detailed analysis for us to, to set down? In other words, at what point do you think we'll have the necessary data to give you that kind of feedback?
Latter half of the year.
Right.
That's
about right.
So, Commissioner, I would say probably after the summer public meetings, we would have the input from those public meetings, be working on those refinements and probably be starting to seek feedback at that point. But again, we're happy to workshop with folks anytime. Sure. If folks want briefings or presentations throughout the process. It's just at certain points we're not going to have a lot of new information, maybe since the last time. But I would say probably after the summer,
okay.
Late summer into fall, we would probably be reaching out.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions, comments? Yes, sir. See, Cabot knows how we do this. In case you guys don't remember, if you got a question or a comment, just set your card up so I can recognize. Yes, sir.
Inverness again takes the lead. Here's my question.
It's starting already.
I did mean that. If the county government and the municipalities should all be in agreement that one particular route is unfavorable and we don't want it, is that enough to nix that route in your eyes, or how does that unfold?
So, we want to be good partners with our local government, and so, if there's not local support for a certain alternative, we would want to either modify that alternative, look at other alternatives, et cetera. So, we do take that input very seriously. And absolutely, when Mr. Burke was presenting the yellow alignment, we had gotten correspondence from you all in previous studies that you didn't want things through the downtown. I absolutely understand. It's a beautiful historic downtown. There's also a lot of lakes, which is an engineering challenge for us. So that is why that yellow alignment did go to the north of Inverness, right? We took that input from previous studies very seriously, and hopefully we're able to refine things in a more satisfactory way.
And for somebody like me who has trouble reading a map, what is the distance of that route from the city limits?
I don't have an exact number for you, but it's more in the miles, not the feet measurement. Yeah, it's a couple miles north, I believe.
Okay.
I'd have to measure it in GIS to be sure, but it's got separation.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you very much.
We'll follow up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else have any questions? Yes? Yeah.
You got somebody else?
I don't know. I didn't see any cards up, but I saw, oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Crystal River's on the board. Again, this is kind of the first time I'm looking at it too, and as a disclaimer, I'm not an engineer or road designer or anything, but obviously somebody sat down to create A, B, C, and D, right? I know you may or may not be able to answer this question, but in your development stage, I mean, because like honestly, A looks very, very aggressive, right? Was there kind of a comprehensive thought plan as far as what you all feel is a more doable, I guess that's the right word, versus on A, B, C, or D?
So let me tackle the first part, which is how we arrived at the 4. So as I mentioned, that one north alternative B, that was a previously studied corridor, which we're required to look at. So that one was essentially placed in as it was in 1999. The other 3, it's a look at it. It's basically a desktop analysis of GIS data, and that's why that northern one kind of stair steps up. There's a lot of things to avoid, but also we have to look. We have a 4-county study area, so we have to look at a broad geographic list of options, if you will, in order to do our, the appropriate analysis that the state requires us to do. So that's how we arrived at those. In terms of, is there one that's rising to the top or sinking to the bottom? We're currently doing that evaluation. So that ACE process that we're currently in, that we anticipate ending the end of spring, early summer, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Engineering factors such as cost, environmental impacts that they may have as we go through those areas, so societal, social impacts. All of those get evaluated equally. So there's no bias on one over the other. We simply evaluate them all equally and score them, and that's how the recommended one will be determined.
Yes, sir. Okay.
You tell me.
I saw your card go first.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your great presentation. And I just want to echo Chairman Kitchen. I think the approach that you've taken to it is completely correct with regards to at what point do we get involved. And I'll tell you, I think right now to be against something, to be against it, or to even be for it, is an irresponsible thing. And I'll tell you why. I think it's important for us to face the realities of the situation, and that's the state of Florida is growing at an unbelievable rate. Everybody can agree on that. To do nothing, I think, would be an irresponsible thing as well. I mean, look, you spelled it out with 75 and the Turnpike and the transportation issues, and we want to make sure that the state obviously has a logistical setup and system in place that is planning for the future, and I think this is doing exactly that. And that's not to say that we're for it or against it, but I think it's the responsible course of action to at least take a look at it and go through that process. If we do nothing, things, put our head in the sand, it's not going to be good long term for the state, and it's not going to be good long term for Citrus County. So I think as the process moves along and we get to the specifics of it, where it's going to be, I think that will enable us to take a educated position in whether we're for it or against it, or we think that there would be a better alternative for Citrus County. I think that would be what we do. I think that the question needs to be, how can we improve our infrastructure in our community? How can we maintain or how can we ensure that we maintain our character as a community and our environment, but also recognize that inaction and doing nothing is not going to be a responsible thing. So I look forward to the time that we're able to take a position as a community. I think because of things like this, we'll be able to speak with a united front on it, and but we're not there yet. And I think we need to get some more information first, and I'm looking forward to it.
And you're next, but I just want to say, I'm not going to ask you to stick around today, but one of my hopes are that once we reconvene here in a little bit, we'll be able to talk more generically about what Mayor Meek just talked about, and that is, growth, getting in front of it, the philosophy behind this. And so I don't think we'll come down to any, thing today. As we said, we don't have the data yet, but there are some philosophical discussions we can have, and I'm hoping, that we'll do that when we get back together. Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, since I had to wait so long, I'm going to ask two questions. First, there was an awful lot of time that was put into the MCORS process. The final document that was produced out of all of those meetings, how much does that get taken into account when developing this, when going through this process? And then my second question would be, you've laid out what the process is. How much of this process is actually funded at this point?
So thank you, Commissioner Kennard. And I was remiss earlier, many of you served on MCORS task forces, and we appreciate the service there. Absolutely, we did a lot of work. We all invested a lot of time in that process. And this is, we got a little bit of a redirect from the legislature. And what that did was to open up the endpoint for this project anyway, this particular project, to not just have to connect to the Suncoast, but at a logical point that we determine, and that's why you saw some of those options that go up to connect to 19, right? So the law that was enacted also states that we will consider all previous studies, including the MCORS final task force reports. And you heard Mr. Burke also mention there were previous studies of what was called then the Northern Extension of Florida's Turnpike, the NEFT. There were previous environmental studies of that. So all of those previous studies are in play. We want to build on that work. We don't need to start from ground zero. A lot of folks put a lot of time into that, and we absolutely want to build on it. And hopefully, you can see that, as Mr. Burke mentioned, that GIS analysis. You remember all the GIS work that was done as part of the MCORS, those avoidance areas. That was absolutely all part of this development process.
Yeah, very good. There was as you said, there was an awful lot of work and resources that were put into that. And ultimately, I think in the end, some pretty broad-based support for general corridor type areas. I would hate to see that just sit on a shelf. I know that it wouldn't, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, that was a great point. We should have pointed that out. Your other question was about the funding. So currently this project is only funded through the project development and environment study. So there are no future phases funded. There's no design, there's no right-of-way, there's no construction. So, those would all take time, but we are going to have to make our report to the legislature at the end of the year, calendar year, and then get some input and feedback from them as well as everyone else on any next steps. But for this point, we are funded through the study, so the schedule that was laid out through the end of the year, there will be some additional documentation into early next year to wrap everything up, but that's all we're funded for.
Great, thank you.
Is that your two questions?
Mayor Placid?
Well, I'll go ahead and present something. We're having the expressway come up through, and we're looking perhaps at Inglis is where the end, on 19 is where the end is going to be for that. It occurs to me that in looking at this, and I know we're really premature, but that this may exit way far north. Is there any thought on connecting the expressway with the turnpike in any way whatsoever, so that there be some sort of circuitous route where traffic can move more fluidly throughout our area into Sumter County and of course down to Orlando, so there's a better traffic flow rather than get on the expressway, get off on 19, get back on the turnpike and so on. What do you have in mind for that? Any connections or anything like that?
So I'll take that. Obviously, there's four broad, very geographically separated alternatives at this point. So where it ends, Suncoast is only set to end, I think, at red level. So anything north of that would be a logical connection we would determine would be 19. If you notice on that, and the slide is not pulled up, so maybe in your packet, where you look at the alternative corridor map that we've got, that central alternative, that one is very much fanned out on the western edge of it at 19, and that is exactly to look at options like you outlined. Will it tie into 19? Will it tie into Suncoast? If it does tie into Suncoast, where would the best way for it to tie in be? So that fan out area actually does include the proposed ultimate terminus of Suncoast. So it's definitely something we want to look at, and probably what will determine that will be the traffic analysis. What makes the most sense? What would be the biggest benefit?
Terrific, thank you.
Any other questions of our guests? Yes, sir.
You had made a mention that I was interested in on the southern route where someone asked where it was going, and you described part of right-of-way for utilities, part
Yes.
of Duke's right-of-way. Can you give me some kind of information later on and everything from my email about what you use right-of-ways for, how people determine how they're used and everything, because they're already in providing utility, electrical, looking at upgrade of systems and everything, maybe utilizing the right-of-ways more efficiently instead of going through a whole new path, taking out subdivisions, things like that. How the department studies that.
Absolutely. I mean, co-location is always something that we look at, and in certain areas it makes a lot of sense to do that. You see most of all the alternatives that head north do co-locate with that Duke right away. Other options are locating. In fact, the central alternative looks at the potential of co-locating with 200 as it crosses the river, so we don't do a whole new corridor there. It's an option. Whether it makes the most sense or not, we'll have to determine. But definitely co-location is something that we look at where we can. Yes.
Some more information on how you determine that and
Sure.
everything, because I know utilities would not want to have to bear the cost of possibly redesigning transmission
Well,
lines,
absolutely,
things like that.
absolutely.
They do have to be kept up and everything, but I know there'd be a lot of opposition there, a lot of cost spread. So I'd like to know more information, how y'all look at it.
We would be happy to follow up. The department does have a process when we are coordinating with utilities, and so there is a whole formal process that we would go through with that, but we'll follow up, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other cards up. I apologize that we have to cut your time short. There's a scheduling conflict today that we really had no control over, so I do very much appreciate you being here and presenting this. I hope that we'll have more discussion about this, and if nothing else, maybe come up with a list of questions that we can submit to you that might be, helpful. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, thanks for the handouts, because this way we can take this back to our folks as well. Okay, folks, here's what I'd like to do. Maybe break here in just a couple of minutes for those of you heading over to the college. I'm planning on reconvening at 11 o'clock. So those of you that leave, if you want to continue to participate or before, come on back. But we'll pick this up again at 11 by those that are here, and then around 12 we'll have our lunch. What I would like to do is, I know there's a couple people that have additional scheduling conflicts that are not planning on coming back, or at least one. Who is not planning on coming back after the event at the college? Okay, so I got 2 people. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to give you each 1 minute in case you have something you want to say before you have to leave. And then I would encourage everybody to come back, because I think this is a great kickoff to a great discussion today. If there's anything that's going to affect our community over at least the next year or multiple upcoming years, it's these types of projects going on. Okay? So, Thomas?
Just first of all, Chairman, thank you for doing this. You set this vision out a number of years ago. I've been honored to be able to participate in each year, and I truly think it is beneficial for us to gather at least once a year and do this. It makes a difference in us having common vision. We all often want the same outcomes. We just sometimes have different roads that we see to get there, as we just saw. So I'm grateful to you and to all of you. I unfortunately had months ago scheduled a family obligation, so I will not be returning. So I appreciate that. And I would just say the one thing I'm always grateful for the opportunity to do is to talk about our in-high school career workforce certification work teachings that we have available. But I'm just going to give you a sneak preview because I can't be here this afternoon. Crystal River High School's Academy of Health Sciences, or Health Careers, we added the Phil Royal Emergency Medical Technician, or EMT, program. We now have over a dozen students that are certified as EMTs. That allows us to have those work in the community, work also to get through college if they are continuing to do that, or direct to the workforce. And that is a program that we're excited that's continuing to grow. We're also going to be starting next fall the veterinarian technician track there as another one, because we definitely know that we have an agricultural science as well as it is a pathway often to human medical. And then the one that I'm really, really excited about is we are stepping into a pathway excuse me, for construction at Citrus High School. These are in addition to the 150 courses that we already offer in 33 different pathways. So that's it for me.
Great, and we'll talk about you since you're not coming back when we get done. Cindy, did you?
I just have to apologize for not being able to come back, but because of all the people moving to Florida and construction, I've got a lot of builders that I need to make happy today, so I have to go to work.
All right. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and take a break then for those that need to travel over there, and then we'll get back together at 11 and start then. So see you then. You coming back? Oh, okay. Everybody take a seat. It's 11 o'clock. We are going to get going.
I've learned to keep my mouth shut.
Somebody can't misquote silence.
All right. Appreciate.
How have I never had that in my life before? That's a great line.
Appreciate everybody getting back, and we are ready to go. Oh, sure. Okay, we are back at it, and other folks may be joining us shortly, but because we value your time, we want to get you out of here as quick as we can today. As usual, we advertise today till 3 o'clock, just so we have that much time if you need it, but as we typically do, we're not going to stay here if we don't have anything to deal with. Also, you might notice that we've spread out, we've reorganized a little to give you a little more elbow room. So, okay? See, if you leave the room, we play musical chairs on you to see what's going on. Yeah. So anyway, we've done that. We're going to again break at around 12 for when lunch gets here, and then we'll come back to our seats and continue going. So we started off with kind of individual. I gave some of the folks that were leaving earlier a chance to make some individual comments. I want to pick up on that, but I want to kind of zero in kind of on the 30,000 foot level. Obviously, what we talk about today is up to all of you. So we can talk about kids and grandkids. We can talk about the extension of the Suncoast. We can, whatever. But I think that the folks from FDOT laid some great groundwork for us today, particularly followed by Mayor Meek's. I'm going to say Joe because we're sure it's late today. So Joe's comments I thought were spot on. That I would like to kind of just have a general discussion today of. We'll call it everybody's first reaction to what's happening. I know none of our boards have met and have taken any position, but we all must have some kind of internal philosophy about transportation needs and roads and that type of thing. So I would like that maybe to kind of be the overriding theme as we go forward today. But of course, we can talk about anything related to that or not. But I think that's going to be the biggest pressing issue as we move forward. And I'll say this a couple ways. Jeff and Scott will have to remind me, but I know, I think it was at the MPO meeting, we were talking about transportation and economic development, and our commissioner friends from Hernando County said the biggest impact on Hernando County was when the Suncoast Parkway came through it. So he said that changed our community, that helped with economic development, it created whatever, everything. So with that said, I think that is a good basis to see that our community is going to be affected the same way. Now we're looking at issues such as the continuation of that. We have a pretty good idea where we think it's going to go. But as you now know from today, the extension of the Turnpike, I think, is going to have a major impact, because that road's going to, whatever happens, like with the Suncoast, is going to be here probably, I look at everybody's age, probably going to be here long after we're all gone, you know. So it's going to have a multi-generational impact, and so I think that should warrant some discussion. So before we actually get into that, I gave a couple of folks the opportunity to make some generic comments. So this is what I'll do now. We'll kind of let everybody make some generic comments. And if you wish, now would be, instead of going into it in detail, if you want to make some comments about something you'd like to make sure we talk about today, I'll jot those down as we do. So as we start wrapping up our conversation, and everybody knows about the cards up, as Jeff's already out there, but I already promised Doug the first word, so he's up, and you're up after that, Jeff.
I just wanted to let all of you know that we did have two of our board members who are not here today. Ginger Bryant is the board chair this year of the school board, and she texted me this morning. She's not able to be here because of an illness. And so I'm the vice chair of the school board this year, but obviously I wanted to pass that word on. She had planned to be here. And then we also heard from Ms. Counts this morning that Sandy Counts, as one of our other school board members, that she's not able to be here because of a recent death in the family. So that's why those two board members are not here, and I just thought it would be appropriate to let everyone know. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. You want any other general comments before I turn it over to Jeff? Because he'll probably have two or three, because he's always so patient to wait there.
I'll hold mine for a little bit later. Thanks, sir. Jeff?
Well, it's an honor to be sitting next to the vice chair of the school board and a good friend. The Turnpike Connector, I had a conversation, I've had several conversations with folks that I have a lot of trust in, folks that have had experience in, pretty extensive experience in planning and transportation issues, and just I guess the people that you go to for advice. You know, we've each got that small circle of people that we call and say, what are your thoughts on this? You know, where are you at on this? And one guy recently, he said, Jeff, he said, you already know that we've got the north and south routes. We've got 19, we've got the Suncoast Parkway, you've got 75, you got 41, you've got all the northwest routes. The Turnpike connector coming from our east to the west, having a new east-west route is a game changer. He said, there's no question in my mind about that. What you guys have to decide is whether or not you want to change the game. He said, that's a discussion that you should be having. And I thought it was, you know, I've had, as we all have, had the emails saying, don't do this, you know, vote no bill, do this. Others saying, we need this, this would be great for our county. And just those words when he said, you just need to decide if you guys want to change the game. I thought was pretty profound and stuck with me. I just want to share that.
I think, you know, I don't see any cards up right yet. I'll just make a comment that kind of philosophically where I've always aligned on this, and during campaigns I've stood up and talked about it, and that is, so what? We all know the numbers, 1,000 people a day moving to Florida, the equivalent of the population of the city of Orlando every 3 years. Now, so they say, okay, well, we're going to be at 20, 22, 24 million people in Florida, but that doesn't take into account the 120 million tourists that visit Florida every year. And then we start talking about the impact of what's happening lately with more people moving here. So when the Suncoast Parkway discussion started 25 years ago, I said if the state needs to move people and freight, that's what DOT's job is, to move people and freight. And if they need to do that, they're going to build roads. So if we see that the road has the potential or will or needs to come near or through our community, the best thing that we can do is make sure that the road that comes through is the absolute most beautiful, environmentally, whatever we can do to get to make it the best that we can possibly get, because we know what happens, and that is if the people are coming and the state doesn't build the road, then the local community is going to have to build the roads. Okay, that's always been my opinion, because we see it right now. How long have we been dealing with 41 in Inverness, right? So it always takes 12 years or whatever to get an FDOT project on the books. So it's one thing to jump up and down and say no, we don't want it. But when our local streets are flooded with traffic from, especially, who remembers the hurricane where everybody, I gave Tampa Bay a hard time. You sent all your people south. They all came to Homosassa, got off the parkway, stopped and bought all of our food, all of our water, and all of our gas, right? And then they had to go to our shelters. So to me, it's always been, let's get that through Citrus County and send those people evacuating further north. But at the same time, we had leverage. We could say, if you're going to build this road, we want it done like this, we want it done like this, we want noise abatement and so on. So that's, as we look forward with transportation issues, that's always kind of been my feeling, is that we can't put a gate up at Florida and say nobody else is allowed to enter, and we can't do that in Citrus County, but we can get in front of the game. We can go in with a game plan and not waiting just to see what everybody else is going to do and react to it. So I think what I'd like to hear today is everybody's kind of thoughts on their game plan. What do they see happening, and what their thoughts are on that. So any other cards, thoughts? Yep, I'm sorry. Oh, David, yes. I'm sorry. And you guys are going to have to kind of wave at me because we're not in it.
Well, that's the rule.
I guess, I like the idea of the road through, but the advisability of getting into Chiefland is interesting, because Chiefland is still 19, and 19 is too close to the Gulf for a good evacuation. So, the advisability of leaving it into, putting it into Chiefland is questionable. And also, I'd like to make sure that this was a limited access road, so we don't have sprawl going all over the place with it. So that's it.
Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, okay, first of all, I want to hold my topic that we want to discuss for a later time, but I want to take what you mentioned, that this is kind of an open discussion, anything you want to talk about, and you mentioned grandkids. I got 4. Let me tell you all about them. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny, this is something that's been on my mind, kind of, and it's not a serious matter that we need to take up a lot of time today to discuss, but I raised my family in Pinellas County, which is the Sun Coast. We moved to the Nature Coast. When I lived in Pinellas County, there was confusion among the folks that lived down there that you went from the Veterans to the Sun Coast. Well, what is that? Do I have to change routes? What do I have to do to get onto the Sun Coast? Because I'm on the Veterans. Well, no, it's the same road. It just extends up. And he goes, okay. And then I had folks coming up to the Nature Coast saying, do I have to get off the Sun Coast and get on to the Nature Coast? And I go, no, it goes through. And he goes, okay, but is that the expressway or is that 19? Because that's also the Sun Coast Highway. So I know this is probably not like, oh my God, I never thought about this, but I spoke to Mr. Burke, and he goes, we've been thinking about that. It's really confusing. You've got the Veterans, you've got the Sun Coast, you've got the Sun Coast Highway, which is 1998. I just think that somebody should get this thing together, and this could be potentially, while we're in this stage of the game, which is the planning stages, maybe this is something that should be addressed. How many Sun Coasters are you going to have to confuse travelers? We all know it because we live here. A lot of folks are going to be traveling this route that don't know it. So I know it's a simple topic, probably not a mind brainer or mind twister, but Mr. Burke agrees. He goes, yeah, it's confusing. And a matter of fact, he goes, I was trying to send somebody up here, and I had to explain to them that you get off the Sun Coast Highway, get on to the I mean, I'm sorry, get off the Suncoast Expressway, then get onto the Suncoast Highway to come here. So I just wanted to bring that up, but the topic that I feel that involves Crystal River directly, I'm gonna hold off on until we get to that.
Okay, we'll make sure we get to it.
Well,
Okay?
we've got a smaller group here, we
Okay,
will.
all right, Robert?
Yeah, you were talking about ideas that we're talking about the road and everything that they've given us with this, the proposed routes and everything like that. We can remember earlier whenever the toll road was coming through and they were looking at interchanges through 495. It's happening now. It's being planned on and everything. Back then, 10 years ago, whatever it was, I was advocating for a limited access for the toll road coming through Citrus County. And 41 or 44 was the perfect entry point into Citrus County, and then 19 get off. But back 15, 20 years ago, well no, it's probably 10 years ago, the county changed for interchanges that allows for the property owners to ask for a square mile commercial zoning at interchanges. So I was looking at that 10 years ago at 495 with an interchange. That's going to be 4 square miles of commercial when asked for, and housing, things like that. That to me is urban sprawl. It says, I got chastised by several people saying, well, we need to bring the people into Crisp River. I said, 20 years ago, Crisp River was on the map. People come here. They don't need that short, direct route. They'll get off 44th, go to 19. And that's just been my mindset since I've been on the council. So it's looking at interchanges, what's going to happen in that area. Because if you look at the accommodate increased travel demand and all the reds, Crisp River pops up dark red in their speculation. So we know it's coming. We just need to, like say, ask for what we're going to need to handle it. And as far as the toll road, put it away from us. Go to the center of the state. You need it in the center of the state. It dead ends into all of the blue that they show for the hurricane evacuation. So what good does that do? It blows that out. That's just it. And then I have some other comments about situations for Citrus County.
Okay, great. Can I give you more place there?
Sure,
Back to
yeah.
you. More place there.
Please.
Do it. I'm up? Yeah, yes, sir. Ken, you know, okay.
I just, I'm glad that they came and talked to us today. And of course, all these things are really preliminary. I can recall in 1991 speaking to FDOT about the 5 miles between Inverness and Hernando. And they assured me that it would be done by 1998. And here we are 31 years later. And we may be beginning to start on this project this year. But we're only going to the overpass by the former Kmart, now Planet Fitness. And so that for us is a major road going into Ocala. And the traffic on it is getting more and more unbearable every year because we've got more people coming in, as you all know. And so something has to be done, but it's very difficult to get them to move on that when there always seem to be more important projects. And I think it would be incumbent upon all of the groups here, the commission and the cities, to reach out in force and see if we can push them a little bit. And it's quite difficult because they have their own agendas, quite naturally. But anyway, it's necessary, and we've got representation up there. We've got to go ahead and do something about that because there's going to be more deaths. And as you know, a light finally got put up there at 200 and 491. So that should eliminate the problems that we've had of recent. But I also recall back up on 200 past the river when there used to be accidents there all the time. And I remember also on 41 when I've come across several accidents when I had business in Ocala coming home at night. And so it's a road that seems to induce accidents. And I don't know why we can't really see, or the state can't see the importance of widening that road all the way to Hernando, 5 miles. As you all know, when we take a look around the rest of the state, there's one highway going from one place to the other. And in Orlando, it's one road on top of another. And I realize they've got the traffic and they need to do that. But we're getting more and more traffic here. And when this expressway opens up, in a short time, we'll be getting a lot more traffic. And so somehow we've got to go ahead and convince them to come down and do a little bit more than they're doing. They're going to open up again to where Planet Fitness is at that overpass, but that's just a short little strip. And we need all that connectivity over here, which they built on the east, south, and central parts of Florida. And where else are they going to go but here? So to stay ahead of that game is something that's desperately needed, and because we're next. So all the way here north, all the way up to well, beyond Chief, of course, all the way up to I-10. It's all open area that if you've been to California, you'll know what's going to happen there as well. So we've got to be prepared for all of this. That's it. The only other thing I want to say is that since I've been with the city since 1999, I must say that the last 2 years has been a tremendous kumbaya moment in my life with the commission and both cities communicating, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience, not only for me, but I think for everybody involved. And we're getting more done. There's a tremendous amount of relationships being built, and good things can happen this way. I mean, it's just exciting to see good government work in good ways with each other. So I'm grateful to all of you guys in the county, and I'm grateful to you guys in Crystal River. And I know that our council and manager feel the same way. So just want to say that and give you all a heads up on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. And I want to echo Mayor Plaisted's comments too. I mean, and thank everybody here, because it doesn't happen by accident with regards to the relationship. And that brings up one of the things I wanted to start off, and that's thanking Chairman Kitchen. I didn't realize it was 7 years. This is the 7th one.
Didn't think you were that old.
No. It's evidenced by my receding or gone hairline. But this was, and I'm sure, I don't know if we said it this year or say it every year, but this was your idea. You pushed to have it, and prior to this, believe it or not, we really didn't have a discussion as a solid group. So that's a great thing, and it's paying dividends today, and it's because you got it going. So thank you. Just my 2 cents on a few things that maybe we can talk more about. But this is exciting times in Citrus County. I mean, it really is. We are a community in transition, and when you look at what's happening right now, obviously the Suncoast Parkway. Now we're talking about the possibility of the Turnpike. But look what's going on in real estate right now. And you guys, especially in the county, know this. I mean, you've got almost every one of the parcels at 491 and 486 are under contract now. Things are moving. You've got national tenants looking here and looking there. You've got real investment that's coming into the county as a precursor to what's going on. So I think what Commissioner Kennard, that is an awesome thing. Do we want the game to change? But I also think at the same time the game is changing, whether or not we want it to. And so I think we got to realize that the game is changing, and the game changed, I think, in Citrus in the late 70s, early 80s, when you had Sugar Mill Woods. Punta Gorda Isles came in, did Sugar Mill Woods, Tamposi and Olson family, Black Diamond and Meadowcrest and Citrus Hills, Pine Ridge, Citrus Springs, all those communities that came in and were developed. You think about that at that time, that was crazy. They came in and did all this stuff in the 70s and 80s and laid the groundwork for these huge communities that are plotted, developed, roads are in, and today those developments are coming to fruition really with regards to the growth happening. So we've got this an immense amount of potential for residential growth in the Central Ridge and really throughout the county, and it's happening right now. I mean, it's happening right now, so I think this is the next big transition that the county is going to see, and that's the build out of these places, you know, and then the commercial to follow, and that's what's happening right now. So I think from a local government standpoint, one of the things that we really should focus on, I know we are, and the commission's taken a big lead in a lot of this, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not, is infrastructure issues. I mean, that's got to be, I think, our number one thing. Commissioner Carnahan's have been, you know, sounding that thing, you know, for forever, but it's going to be infrastructure related. Roads, water, sewer, and how that ties in. And I think that's got to be the focus, especially as local government. And we need to focus on you know, our roads. Obviously, the state is doing that, and we're doing that in partnership with them. You're seeing 19 and the widening, and I know that's a whole nother. You've seen 19 widening, but 41 hopefully finally. But we need to look at also our collector roads and then the infrastructure along those, because in addition to the Central Ridge, and I was just trying to think about it when we were talking about it, you're having major things happening like on the west side of the county. Rock Crusher Canyon's going to now be developed in the 1800 possibly residential home site. So you've got Venerable right there, a local road, how that's going to tie into 19, and the Wild Palms is coming back, how that's going to tie in on Turner Camp. Mm-hmm. So Turner Camp, how Citrus Hills, Terra Vista 2, you know, is coming on 491, and how that's going to tie in. So you got all these, and all those developments are all local type roads, you know, in addition to what we're talking about with the Parkway that's happening. So I think that has got to be the focus of us as a whole county going forward. We're growing, and I think this is the transition, you know, and how are we going to address that? So I know I'm kind of talking in circles right now, but I think that's the long-term thing. Infrastructure issues, road improvements, those types of things is going to be the focus. All right. Thank you.
Scott? Thank you, Mr. Chair, and agree 100% with Mayor Meeks. And one other thing that we got to focus on is our judicial system. We've outgrown it. It's something that we all got to work on collectively as an elected group, that we've got to start doing a long-term thinking about how we're going to grow you know, our government buildings over in Inverness. And you know, so we need, you know, I want to get that on the table also, because more and more people are coming, and we're going to have to upgrade our facility there. And so I think that's another thing that has to be put on the radar for us to work together, start planning that.
Okay, Jeff, and I'll come back over here. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what Mayor Meek said, that and let him know as well that during our commission planning retreat that came up, roads such as Venable, Croft over on the other side of the county, some of those roads, certainly Cardinal to the south, all of those roads there needs to be a plan for those. The growth is here, and more is coming. We have to be planning together to give those roads the capacity to handle what's on its way.
Mr. Bear? Ken?
Yeah.
Again?
Well, again,
give
I
everybody-
figured
I'll give
would you want
everybody
everybody to have a
else's-
chance first?
No,
Okay,
go
that's
ahead.
fine.
You
No,
get your
go.
card.
No,
Good.
I'll go second round.
Okay, Bear? I want to make
Okay.
sure everybody
Mayor
gets a
spoke to
chance to speak.
I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Carnahan's comments about the judicial. The city is ready and willing to go ahead and work with the county to see what we can develop down there for a big judicial complex. As you know, we had a plan many years ago about what we wanted for the downtown area. We segued off of that a little bit with the Depot District and Liberty Park and those amenities that were created to go ahead and draw more people to our community. But I think we're at that stage right now where we need to take a look at working together with land and whatever's available to develop a nice judicial complex down there. So that'd be something for us to look at in the future here. future should not be too far away. It needs to be done, so thank you.
All right. Ken?
Well, I agree with the mayor that there's been a great cooperation since I've been on council about 10 years. It wasn't always that way, but there's a great relationship between Inverness and Crystal River, and I think there's a good relationship with Crystal River and the county now, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
It's nice when we all can get together and discuss what's mutually beneficial for all parties, right?
Absolutely.
But I do want to talk about something that is directly related to Crystal River. And remember, Crystal River is a city, but the city's in the county. So what affects the folks that live in Crystal River also affects county residents because the city is part of the county. You know, we're talking about the Turnpike extension. We're talking about the new Suncoast Highway coming in. We're talking about infrastructure, improving roads. People are coming in here. People are moving here. People are visiting here. And that's where there's a concern among the residents that live in Crystal River, is that it's great that we're bringing all these folks in, and we need those because that's our economy is supported by a clean eco-tourism industry. But at what expense? And there's a lot of folks that I represent that call me almost on a daily basis saying, it's great, and we need this, but what is enough? And the answer is, well, there is no limit to what's enough because we've been discovered, and they're going to come, and now that you've visited here, or now that you've lived here, you can't close the gate and lock it. You know, just right after you arrive, you're going to lock it so nobody else can come. You know, that's not realistic. Well, that being said, is that it's a challenge to create a balance between our visitors, which supports our economy, and a balance to make folks that live here, their life's enjoyable too. You know, private property rights are respected, and that their quality of life is also respected. And I don't know if there's a simple answer to that, other than the fact that, and I'm speaking as an individual on the council, not as a member of, not speaking as a council, but all these discussions, infrastructure, supporting the tourism, all that, we need to do it. But right now, it's not total because the county's been great. You've helped us on many, many projects, and I want to thank you personally for that. But in the long term, there's a sense among the residents of Crystal River, the taxpayers of Crystal River, that a lot of this growth is on their backs. They're burdening, they're paying for folks to have a good time in Crystal River. They're paying for the success of the TDC and the success of our tourist industry, both Florida and national and everybody, bringing folks to Crystal River, but at whose expense? And I guess what I'm trying to get at in a roundabout corner and diplomatic and nice way is that as a city, we could sure use some help. You know, we appreciate what the county's doing for us, bringing folks to Crystal River. We appreciate what the state of Florida's doing, bringing folks to Crystal River. We appreciate National Geographic and every other world news telling about the manatee and bringing folks to Crystal River. But from a expense burden and from a tax burden and from an infrastructure burden and everything that we need to support all this growth coming to Crystal River, we need some help. And it shouldn't be based on our millage rate and what our taxpayers are paying. So I don't think anybody's going to come up with, oh, I got a great idea for it. We can handle this today. But it's a concern, and discussing with our city manager, and again, just getting the calls and emails from folks that live there, it's a concern of theirs too, saying, this is wonderful, but do we destroy the wonderful by over-wonderfuling it, so to speak? And that's a big concern, and that's what I hear almost on a daily basis from the folks that live in Crystal River on a 24/7. So we need some help in paying for our success, bringing folks to Crystal River. Because remember, again, I'm not going to be redundant here. I know Crystal River is a city, but Crystal River is a city within Citrus County. Okay, great.
Okay, and I have a whole list because I have the answer to your question.
Oh, really? Ken, take out your notes.
Go ahead.
being a first-time attendee, I appreciate the opportunity to sit here and listen to some of the ideas, because sometimes we get closed in our little circle and we don't realize that there's other opinions out there and there's other areas outside of my little town, Inverness, that I'm in. And I, unfortunately or fortunately, I can tell you, looking around here, that I've been in Citrus County more years than anybody sitting in this room. So I've got a lot of history there, and I've seen it. I can remember back when 44 would have been a 4-lane. Well, you know, I'm thinking, when I was a kid, you'd go from Inverness to Crystal River, and you probably on two hands could count the cars you passed. It just wasn't there. And the mayor, me, can remember that. Just I'm a few years older than him, but Crystal River, that has changed. So those things change a lot. I remember when Mr. Welch put the cabinet shop out on 44, where now Publix is at, and everybody in Inverness said, "You're crazy. That's too far out of town." Well, look what has happened on 44. So I guess what I'm saying is that growth's going to come. We just need to make sure that we are protecting the quality of life of the people here, and not only protect it, but we're trying to enhance it. We're trying to protect the environment, making it as friendly as we can to the environment, and that it's aesthetically pleasing. So we just need to be on the front end of all this stuff that's going to come here. Let's be very proactive on trying to guide it, if it's going to come, and make it the least impactful we can to our community.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Cabot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Gene Davis is a wise man, okay? That's one thing I want to go ahead and say.
I paid him to say that.
Go home, okay? I'm going to kind of scattershot a lot of things here. Infrastructure is a big deal. It is not glamorous, it is not sexy, but boy, do we really need it. So things like stormwater runoff, septic to sewer, resurfacing our roads. We recently had every road in the city of Inverness analyzed to determine our priorities there. 41 North, really big deal. It has been the #1 priority of the MPO basically since we started the MPO and the TPO. We're going to be having a representative from the FDOT at our next meeting on February the 1st, who is going to present some issues to us and just kind of give us a much better idea of where they are and where we are. We have submitted a request for funds for $35 million to put roads, streets into the area of Inverness Acres and Inverness Village, so that those people that have been living in sand, okay, for these many years, can have those roads, and this area is also going to go ahead and build up. So, Suncoast 2, as you were, the Northern Turnpike extension, the no-build option really isn't an option, okay? That's simply going to exacerbate the problems that we have right now on I-65, so they're going somewhere. The question is, do we want them going through our community, or if so, how close to the county do we want that to come? Again, I would get back to the issue of quality of life there. And we sort of look forward to working with the county when it comes to governmental buildings, and I just want to remind everybody once again that we are the county seat. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to mention about the school system. With all the growth comes to the school system, and we have with us here Mr. Chuck Dixon, who is our planner. In the school system, we have 5-year plans, and we go by them unless something terrible happens. And we plan for schools that are coming in with the growth. There are going to be schools coming right now. No, we're going to go next to Floral City because we have some growth there. But as people come and move in and bring children, unless they're homeschooled, if they bring children, then we have to plan to have a school for them, or a classroom in a school that we already have built. We have to enlarge the school. So I want all of you, as you look at growth and look at building roads and everything else, also to remember schools, because we have to have those for the children.
Thank you, ma'am. And Jeff. That's on my list to talk about here in a minute too. So.
Yeah, Ken, great point. The the TDC, as we're all aware, has done a fantastic job of bringing lots of people to town, and it's the residents in town that see the ramifications of that. Some good, some not so good. but it is on the backs of the residents. My suggestion, sitting here listening to you, is going to the TDC, requesting funding for large capital projects that would benefit both tourists and the residents alike. You know, in the city of Inverness, the city of Crystal River, you know, certainly Homosassa. Those are the places where the tourists are going to. Find those projects, you know, on your list of capital projects that could use large sums of money from the TDC, and use your city funds for stuff that it can't be used for. You know, the utilities or the infrastructure stuff, things that you can't necessarily use TDC funds, but those other projects that you're wanting to get done or needing to get done. I think the TDC is seeing their accounts getting filled up from all these people coming here. You know, let's see some large projects that benefit, that the residents will see, and they need to hear this was funded from tourism dollars. You know, we've got this for our community because of all these people coming here.
David, let me jump out there real quick because tourism's getting jumped on here, so I'm going to have to speak up. So let me back up just a little bit here because I've been making notes as everybody talks, and so I can scratch these off and move on. First of all, thanks for all the compliments about this event, but it's not me, because if I sat here by myself, it'd be very boring. So it's the people that participate in this event that makes it successful. This will be my last summit. I hope this won't be the last summit. I hope this will continue on, and that it'll be continued to be used for this, because what makes this successful, besides us all just sitting around the table and getting to see each other again, and I think Mayor Place had brought this up, is that we are, I won't even say a team, we have to speak with a unified voice. Okay, if pick any subject, let's talk about the Turnpike extension. If one municipality's for it and the other's against it, that sends a split message. If one's for this route and the other one's for a different route, that sends a split message. I think what our job is to come together individually as our own boards, and then an event like this or a forum like this to share our ideas to come up with a unified position, because that's what's going to happen. Again, you all know me. I've been around for a while. I have no problem with being candid and telling you what I think, so I'm going to continue to do that today. I think what we stand is a very good chance of saying we all probably agree. I have to agree that the no-build scenario is not a scenario. I mean, the road have to get built because people are continuing to come here. The question should be is what can we get for it? You know, what if they say we've done all the analysis, this is where we think the road should go, and we look at it and we have suggestions that we think can make it better or move it somewhat or whatever, that's when we have the leverage. I think if we take the approach of sticking our head in the ground and say, no, we don't want it, well, then that's being short-sighted. So we need to look at that. But just keep in mind, whatever we do, if we speak with a unified voice, the legislators like that, who doesn't like that? You know, that's what we have to do. Let me jump over here to tourism real quick and say tourism pays for itself. You know, you guys got to decide what you want. You create a tourism bureau and say, bring people here, and then everybody complains that we're bringing people here. Okay, so look at the stats of what tourism does for the job creation in Citrus County. Look at the stats that, well, I think it's $121 per taxpayer benefits from tourism in Citrus County. It doesn't matter if you're in the city or not. And also, let me remind you, the tourism dollars are used to attract more tourists. That's what it was developed for. Okay, it wasn't attract to build buildings, wasn't created to do that. There's an additional 1 cent that comes in from the tourist tax that can go to capital projects. But when you talk about the coffers being full, no, they're not, because we spend them down every year. We bring in $2 million, we spend $2 million on marketing. That's what we do. So if you don't want tourism to be effective, please tell the TDC that so they can quit being as effective as they are. I've always said before, the tourism department's job is to bring people here. What is done with them once they get here is up to the individual folks. So yeah, there's great opportunities there, but I'll tell you the biggest problem is education. Okay, I was the mayor of Crystal River for 10 years. Okay, I know the dichotomy that you're talking about. You have the business people that have investments in Crystal River, and probably same is true for Inverness. They're the business people that have the investment, but they don't live there and don't vote there. So you have the people that derive a lot of the benefit aren't the people that live there. The people that live there say, what are all these tourists doing tromping through my backyard? I don't want them here. I don't get anything from them. And so what I tried to do is I tried to say, yeah, but you enjoy going to that restaurant that's open 12 months a year and it doesn't close in the summertime now when the tourists aren't here. Okay, so without the tourism, we don't have the economy to drive these businesses that we're attracting right now. I'll tell you right now, a lot of the businesses that are coming here aren't being generated by our 150,000 people. They're being generated by the 500,000 tourists that came here last year to Citrus County. Okay, so that's a remarkable number of the impact on the county. So, I would say approach the TDC whatever you want, but you shouldn't think that the TDC is just hoarding all this money, because what its job is to spend what comes in. That's why the hoteliers agreed to tax themselves to do this very thing. And, it's so funny because everybody said, well, we got to build tourism, and now we're doing it. And people are saying, there's too many tourists here. Well, tell the TDC that cut back on what they do, and you don't want them to be as successful. I mean, because it seems to me that the money is being generated. The majority of the hotels are in the cities, okay? So the majority of the sales tax being collected are in those cities. So there is great economic benefit, but I think it's important to point out, I'll just drive this one point home. I had people stop me all the time in Homosassa, especially with 19. I'm sick of all these tourists. I had to sit through 3 changes of the traffic light. I'm sick of these tourists. And I said, do you realize these tourists do this, do this, do this, and save you this much money? Oh, well, I guess I can sit in a few traffic lights. Most people in Citrus County, when they understand the benefits to them, instead of just saying it's all on our backs, we're paying for everything, when they understand the true data, they have a better appreciation for that. Mayor Plaisted, about the buildings, I couldn't agree with you more. There was a little thing that occurred a few years ago called buying Meadowcrest, which was the most horrible thing Citrus County did in the last 10 years. And I'll tell you why. The city of Crystal River went to the county and said, we'll give you land. We'll give you land and help you build a building in the city of Crystal River if you'll move the West Coast office into the city. And the county said, nope, we don't even want to talk to you about it. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, there should be government offices in both cities. I've said this from the very beginning. My opinion has been the cities have the infrastructure. That's where the infill should be. We shouldn't be in the sprawl. We shouldn't be going out into a lot of undeveloped areas. We should continue to help infill in the developed areas. So I think that's something that we do have an agreement on. Schools. It's not just retired people that are coming here now. If you look at the statistics, we're getting, and the Parkway will continue to do this, is bring young families. They're going to be putting people into schools. There was such a thing as concurrency with building with roads and schools. That's not there anymore, so that's going to have to be looked at in the future, right? This hasn't been talked about. I brought this up with FDOT. I would think both cities would be very interested in this. I asked the Turnpike Authority to look into it. Probably Inverness and Crystal River, when it comes to the Parkway and Turnpike extensions, have the most skin in the game as far as impact on your communities. And I've heard it both ways. Will the Parkway be good? Will it be negative? Or will it be positive? And I said, well, you have 2 bypasses that were just done. They just bypassed Stark, right? Anybody been up that way on 301 lately? You don't have to drive through the town anymore. So I asked them, I said, so what's been the effect on the city? Has it turned into a ghost town since people are bypassing it? And the answer I got was the people that live there love it, because they say now we can go out and we can get around town and go visit the local businesses. Before it was just trucks blocking up everything coming through town. So I would think the cities would want to get some information about that. Same with Baldwin. They did the 301 bypass around Baldwin now too. So I think the statistics are there to tell you what the impacts of these bypasses around towns are, or how close they could be, because they have that information. 41 segment, I know Cabot remembers this. The reason 41 took so long is FDOT's plan was we do the whole study, we buy all the right-of-way, and then we start construction. And based on that, we thought it would be like 29, 30 before 41 ever got built, right? Because what we encourage them to do is do it in bites, and that's the only reason it's getting done, is they agreed to take it in segments. So that might be the future of highway projects, is we're going to have to deal with these folks. And let's see, bypasses, and here's something else to think about. This came to me today about why this particular group meets. Think about this. We are the taxing authorities. Okay? So, you know, the constitutionals don't have their own tax structure, but sitting around the table is the taxing authorities in this county. So when you talk about millage rates and whatever, those are the things that we have to take into consideration. And I'm just saying these are my points of view. I'm sure there's a lot of disagreement with what I'm saying or not, but I'm just kind of throwing that out to kind of stir the pot and get some people to you know, to react to this, because I sure don't want everybody sitting in here today just, you know, whatever. I want to, like Jeff's got his card up there now. So anyway, I just want to throw that out and say I agree with what you're saying. I wrote down infrastructure and transportation. That's been about the thing that everybody has brought up. And all these, I don't want to sound like we're leaving the school, because all this affects the schools. You know, I mean, I don't think of an issue when you talk about building a subdivision and having the roads to handle it. What about when you build a school? You know, what about the impact on that, on the roads or whatever? So anyway, I just wanted to get those in, especially since you guys jumped in on tourism. I had to jump out there and say a little bit about it. So let's see, where did we leave off at?
I haven't spoken yet.
I'm sorry, Holly. I'm sorry,
You could have
Holly.
left it to me because
Okay.
I'm the TDC chair to,
Okay,
you know,
well.
actually defend TDC.
Okay.
I mostly agree with what the chair said about that. However, I am certainly interested in creative opportunities to alleviate some of the negative effects that Crystal River in particular is experiencing. But kudos to all the TDC, you know, in the past for doing a very an amazing job. And as an anecdote, I will say that I asked my own family, who we have a boat, we go out, and it's very difficult. Most of us don't go to Three Sisters anymore because, you know, there's just so many kayaks out there. And my stepmother flat out said, I said, you know, what are your feelings on this? And she said, you know, I just am so happy for the businesses thriving here because of the tourism. And she mentioned exactly what you talked about, that the restaurants are open in the summer and things like that. So I think a lot of people understand that it's a powerful, positive impact on our county as a whole, and certainly on Crystal River. But there might be little places where we can be creative to help alleviate some of the issues. Okay, one thing I didn't hear on the infrastructure is broadband. That is desperately needed. Work from home and even occasionally school from home. As we have all been experiencing all these challenges, this is a place where a lot of higher dollar salary people would want to live doing work from home. A lot of companies are going back to in person, but a lot, you know, that train has left the station. There's going to continue to be a lot of work from home, so we really, really, really need to get in front of broadband throughout the county. I also agree, yes, the best we can do with the Turnpike is to shape the outcome. To the chair, you've made that point twice, and I agree with it completely that, you know, it's coming somewhere. And whatever we can do, and I look at it as being a good neighbor on my street, in my neighborhood, in my district, in my county, but also for all of Central Florida and for the state as a whole. And so wherever it's going to have the least negative impact from an environmental standpoint, a historical standpoint, like not going through historical areas, not going through built-out neighborhoods, that sort of thing, wherever it has the least impact is where I'm hoping that it ends up going, wherever county that happens to be. Bypass, you also got on the subject that I wanted to talk about is the Turkey Oak bypasses around both cities. Having traveled extensively, you know, and I'm sure most of you in the room have as well, those little destination, you know, we are a small town USA, and those two cities need to maintain that character of small town. We don't need the 3 traffic that are only looking for a McDonald's and a gas station. They can take around, you know, go around and alleviate the traffic in those two cities, and it becomes a destination where people stop and they park and they walk and they visit art galleries and they go into little bistros and they experience what amazing charm we have in this county. So, and finally, I agree with the esteemed Mayor Meek that this is a very exciting time to be in Citrus County. We got a lot of good things going on, and it's nice to be such a collegial body around one table. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. And you guys are getting way ahead of me, so I'm writing these down now so I go around. So Doug, I think you're next. I may be wrong, but I'm going to do. And then I got Dave, and then Jeff, and then Robert. So far, that's what I got.
So, as a school board member, obviously, I'm not going to have a vote on this, but we'll have a vote on the schools when we see the growth and we see where our schools will need to go. And so that's an important part of this community. I know Ms. Powers pointed that out as well. As we see this growth. But, you know, I come back to the presentation. They talk about having a preferred alternative October through December. And, you know, that's a short 9 months away. I do agree with Mr. Kitchen, the chair, on having a agreement. I think you said a unified voice. I think that, for me as a citizen now talking, you know, what's best for the citizens of Citrus County, would be, I would hope that maybe there would be some agreement between the city councils and the county commission. We already know Suncoast Parkway 2 is going to impact this community greatly. It's going to impact our growth for schools. And we know that there's another phase of Suncoast Parkway 2, I think it's phase 2 and 3 that they're in the works on, right? That's going to greatly impact the west side of the county. When I look at these alternative corridors for the Turnpike extension, obviously, the two North A and North B don't impact Citrus County because it doesn't come through Citrus County. We talk about a bypass, and you talk about Stark and how everybody well, that would be kind of like a bypass. We'd still have some benefit of having a Turnpike extension just to the north of us that we could probably have access to pretty quickly, but yet it wouldn't come right through our county. Now, I heard Mr. Ryan talk about he thinks it's to dump out in Chiefland there were some concerns. And I don't know if you're talking about trying to go further north of Chiefland for it to dump out. I don't know, but that's not one of the alternatives right now. I mean, that when I look at North A and North B, those would be the best corridors that I see personally that would not impact. They wouldn't have to cross the Withlacoochee River. It would protect the Rainbow River. I am concerned about our natural resources, our water quality, all those things. So, you know, I just was interesting that I want to encourage you all as you look at this in a relatively short period of time, because they're going to present what I wrote down as the preferred alternative. So when they go to the public hearing, that will already have come to your boards, I would assume, before they're going to come out and say, this is our preferred alternative. So you all have a lot of voice in determining, I hope, what the preferred alternative is.
And I would hope, like you say, you don't have a vote in it. Yes, you do, because you're a citizen and you get to vote for all of us. But the other thing is that you're part of the team. So, you know, whatever we come up with, I think the school board has to say we can support that or not. Before we continue with Dave, here's what we want to do. The folks, by the way, I want to thank Veronica and Robin. Everybody's worked so hard to help us get this organized today. They're going to hand out lunch. We're going to keep on working, okay? So if you need to get up or whatever, if you put your lunch order in, you're going to be getting it. So as it comes around, just dig in and we'll keep talking. Was that it, Doug, so far?
Yes, sir. That's
okay, I got Dave up next. Dave?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I feel so
And
special.
this has
Thank you.
this has to do with infrastructure and the schools.
Thank you.
Okay. The schools at the moment, their pickup lines are clogging up our roads. On Ella, they're making a mud hole on the side of the road. On Line Avenue, they're impeding traffic. There's got to be some consideration by the school boards to alter their pickup and drop-off lines. And the reason for that is there's more houses building. There's like the hospital emergency area. If you've got buses there, it's hard to get an ambulance down there. And having used the emergency room a couple times, you know, it's just something that it would be good for, I think, for the school board to work with the cities in getting alternate routes. to alleviate some
It's
of
gonna be a little
that.
difficult, awkward.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Robert? I got you, Jeff. You're next.
Patiently eating.
Okay.
My idea is about the school board. I've listened to them talk. We're talking about growth and everything. I came from Ocala. I started the 6th grade in Crystal River in 1968. It was a great time. Didn't think so as a kid, but now that I look back at it, because the place we just came from, Charlie Dean had a lot to do with the truancy. It was non-existent. It was a small town family. I couldn't do anything because my dad was on the city council. So, growing up that way, it was a good memory. Come today, my wife's retired. She's a registered nurse, and she taught the health academy for about 15 years at the high school. And now my daughter's teaching at the high school. And I wrote down 2 things that say buildings are secondary. The children of the school are the primary thought. I'd like to have the premise that, like I say, back then, discipline was the thing for school. I think I grew up with a lot of people here, and that was it. I don't know how to do it tactfully and everything.
Don't worry about tax.
All right. Well, I've got good friends that are teachers in the system now, and as 2nd grade teachers, they've had enough. They can't take getting hit, being threatened, being stabbed. I said, man, I wish I could teach. I'd finish the little hits off, but I can't do it. I asked my wife, or whenever I retired, I says, well, maybe I could go substitute. She said I'd go to jail in the first days. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's what needs to happen. People need to kind of look at what the schools, what the teachers are dealing with today. This thing right here, they can't teach because of that. I hate it. It's going bad, so I don't think I'm gonna have one soon. It's just, that's something that weighs on my mind. Knowing good friends that are gonna give up teaching because they can't, they're not defended from the little heathens. I hate to call them that, but they're there. So, until that's looked at, you're always gonna have a hard time getting teachers, getting bus drivers that are not wanting to drive the kids for fear of attack. That is the key issue. And it's like I say, it's coming to Crystal River. I think, like I say, we are the taxing authority, and there are sound off bites that, well, I came here to retire, not to pay for somebody's kids. Like I say, I've lived here since 1968. I grew up in Ocala. This is my home, and we need to protect the citizens of Crystal River. And we need to be a shining light, maybe to start doing something for the teachers of Crystal River, or for the teachers of Citrus County. That's the main thing I've got to say.
All right. Okay, next I got Jeff, then Joe, and then Linda. That's my lineup as I see so far. Anybody else want to get in queue? Let me know.
Jeff?
All right, well, I will start off with all due respect, Mr. Chair.
That's when you know it goes down.
He's a nice guy, but I didn't hear, nor was I expressing that we've got too many tourists, or we don't want more tourists. You know, attacking the numbers on tourism, or the TDC for that matter. What I heard from Ken was there are negative effects to this. We don't really like to talk about those, but there are negative effects to this. We need some help. How can we help? You know, let's take a look at these. You know, yes, this part of it, the job creation, the tax revenue, the you know what it means to our economy. All that's the positive side. But let's take a look at this negative aspect to it also. What can be done about that? And, you know, just sitting here, I hadn't considered that whatsoever until he brought it up. And so I'm sitting here listening to that, and I thought, you know, the funds are pouring into the private businesses, and many of our private businesses are reinvesting right back in the community again. So that's a positive side that we see to it. But also, there is a lot of money flowing to the TDC. And so my recommendation was, let's take a look at that. That, you know, there's revenue there. Maybe it's $50,000, or maybe it's $500,000. Who knows what? I don't know what it is, but there's that money. There's money there, and I would not want either of the cities to hesitate for a minute to come forward and say, we want to do a project in the city. This could, you know, tourism dollars could be used for this. This is the number that we're looking at. And maybe it's not a 1-year thing. Maybe it's a 2 or 3 or a 4-year project, whatever it might be. This is where we could use some help. You know, whatever we can do with tourism dollars that would help us offset the cost, and we can use our tax revenues, our restricted funds for doing infrastructure projects or other things that you can't use tourism dollars for. And then you got to let people know this is what you got for you know, the tourism dollars that came here. You know, the tourism numbers that came here. This is whatever it is. It's a park. It's a boardwalk. It's a whatever. It's a beach. Doesn't matter, but people need to be educated on not only how much tourism is decreasing their property taxes, but also how much tourism benefits them in the way of a capital project that they can take their kids out there, their family out there. So that was what I heard was not no more tourists or stop doing such a good job, but here is a negative thing that I want to kind of bring to the surface to talk about. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to comment about, before we get out of here today, I do want to talk about mental health care. But there was, I don't know who mentioned it, but said the Turnpike connection route, the preferred route with the least negative effects. And for those that weren't involved with the MCOR's task force, I don't recall how many people there were on that task force. Was there 25, 30 people, something like that on the task force from all walks of life, different organizations that from the outset were absolutely no build, don't build anything, to the trucking industry that we need roads everywhere so we can move freight. And it was interesting that as the meetings went on, and I think we met for, was it 13, 14 months, something like that?
Years.
Yeah, it was a long time. But as that schedule of meetings wound down, it was interesting that that we were able to get closer and closer to agreements on, well, this isn't exactly where we'd like it to go, but we can live with this. Stay out of this area, stay out of this area. And when she mentioned the GIS map that was created, it really was impressive. I don't know if the MCOR's website is still up and running, but the number of layers that you could add to that GIS mapping, that, you know, Marion County said 100% stay out of horse country. This is off limits. And so they did. They created a layer of different areas in this whole study area that this is no-go, this is, we could live with it, it's not really where we'd like to see it go, but we could live with it. So those things have been addressed, and I hope, you know, she said they're gonna use that stuff, but man, we sure spent a long time going through it. And to hear, hear Charles Lee actually advocating for some specific routes to bring the turnpike over to connect with Highway 19, and he was a big voice for co-locating with 44 and Highway 19, finding a route that, you know, had the least negative effects on the environment, but co-locating with existing corridors. But anyway, lots of information.
And I know you meant nothing but all due respect. Linda, okay?
Yeah.
Linda? Then I got Joe and then Holly so far.
Okay. Thanks very
Oh, and
much
then-
for
okay.
bringing the school and your thoughts about the schools into this so everyone can share it. We've had much good fortune working with the commissioners. If a problem comes up that they can help with, that they can support, they always do. I can remember, we talked about buses, I can remember one bus that was going out near the bridge on 200, and they couldn't get down this little road to go pick up a child, so the child had to be brought up to the main road. And the commissioners went out and looked at this road, saw that it was terrible, and they said, hey, you know, we didn't realize it was this bad, and they had that road fixed so the buses then could go down. The commissioners have always been very supportive, and we really thank you. When you were talking about doing things to improve different parts of the county, Holly, you used the word creative, and over and over. And I thought, that's what we always need, something that's creative, not just any solution to any problem. Because a solution might be to ban all kayaks. Well, that's not a very good idea. But to find a creative solution to the problems. And I think the people on the board here, the people in the councils, the mayors, they look at creative ways to solve a problem, to make the issue that they're dealing with better than it was. So I appreciate that. And if you have any issues that you'd like to talk about with the school system, anyone here, please do. I'm so thrilled that y'all are doing that, because sometimes we don't get anyone to talk with us. But if you do, please tell us, please talk with us. We've done it in the past, we'll do much more in the future if you'd like. Whatever you feel, please bring it to us.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let me see, just a few. Commissioner Kennard, thank you for the comments on with regards to, you know, us thinking of options and ideas and not to be bashful about sharing them and trying to come forward and find things. Thank you very much. On the tourism issue, I think that we know this. I think everybody up here does that. You know, it's not a mutually exclusive thing where, in other words, you don't have to be pro-resident and anti-tourist, but I think it's our job as community leaders to make sure that we relay that to folks, and I think that a lot of folks do get that, just like Commissioner Davis said. I mean, you know, it's good and bad, but there's got to be a balance to it, and we got to be careful that we don't, you know, this happens a lot in state and national politics where there's a wedge issue and we can, you know, do something that's, you know, for political reasons, but the reality is it does help everybody. Tourists are what helps a lot of folks, businesses, and helps the things that we've all said it does. So I think that, you know, finding that balance is key. Real thing I wanted to say is I was remiss not to bring this up earlier in Commissioner Kitchen with your suggestion, comments about the bypass issue. Wanted to thank the county, thank the MPO, and especially folks in the county for working with the city with regards to Turkey Oak bypass. That's exactly what we're trying to look at. We're under no misconceptions that that's the end-all, solve-all, and that's probably not the best thing. That's you know, that there could absolutely be, but it's an option to improve a situation that's coming. And so thankfully, because of the county support and the MPO support, we're looking at what they are, what we can do out on with Turkey Oak, and we've got a substantial amount of funding, talking about partnerships, we got a substantial amount of funding to do that study. And so we'll look at things in the MPO, when we talked about it at the MPO, just for everybody's information. They're looking specifically at ways in which they can use technology to you know, whether it be electronic signs that say, you know, north of Crystal River, 5 minutes Turkey Oak, straight 15 minutes, and that'll encourage folks to, you know, go a certain way, turn lanes, those types of things. So that's exactly what we're trying to do as one of those things, and that's a great point with regards to the bypass. Finally, the infrastructure, when I was talking about roads and water stuff, I did leave out broadband, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I can tell you, what I really do is have a home building and real estate company, and so I can tell you that for the first time in 20 years, we've had multiple, we do mostly spec homes, so it's not custom homes. You know, someone moves in, buys an existing home that we just built. We've had recently 3 folks, younger folks, that have bought houses, and their number one issue was internet, because they're now able to move. They're moving from up north. One was in Massachusetts, New Jersey, and somewhere else, where they don't have to live within a proximity of their office anymore. And so COVID and technology, and that's changed the dynamic. So they're able to live someplace that they actually want to live in, and that's here where we live. So their biggest thing, I can tell you, you know, was internet availability, and they're all working from home. And that's just one little, you know, thing is happening all over. So the availability of that, and as we talk about improving infrastructure, that is huge. That's where it's at. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
I've actually been in that hell before. We first moved back to Florida 5 years ago on a rental farm over in Orlando, and it's on a busy highway, and I work from home doing high-end graphics, big graphics files. I literally didn't have internet available at the farm. And, you know, that was about a 3-week freak out and hours of phone calls before I could finally, you know, I was looking at having to rent an office. It was pretty crazy. So that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. I did want to clarify something to tag off of what Commissioner Kennard said about TDC. It is not just, and most people know I was raised in Crystal River, but Inverness, a big portion of Inverness is my district, and so I do split my affections equally between the two cities. I think that the focus in Crystal River as far as tourism development goes is the creativity would be to ameliorate the negative effects of tourism while continuing full steam ahead on the positive effects and bringing tourists in. In terms of Inverness, they've also done Inverness, Floral City, Homosassa. They've done a wonderful job at trying to diversify our portfolio past manatees. And so we need to really look at that more and more, because we need people to come here to not just go to Crystal River and swim in the manatees. There's tons of other wonderful things to do on the Nature Coast, so you definitely have my attention on any ideas in those areas as well. Mr. Holmes, that was a heartbreaking speech about the teachers. I've heard the same thing. My heart really goes out to them. I know that I've heard from Sam Himmel, you guys are having a heck of a time getting substitutes and whatnot. So that ties into mental health. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. That's a priority for me as well. And I also brought up at our own commission retreat a couple of weeks ago that we also need to look at the homeless situation, which ties into my efforts with Prosperity Citrus, which is to leverage the dollars that are already out there from a state and federal level to try to identify those people that just weren't even born on the ball field, let alone on second or third base like I was. And if they want to achieve, that we give them a clear path to do so. And as long as they work, and then they get a little bit of that leg up to go through. So it's a big thing to be tied together with mental health, life stream, homelessness, and getting the people that are takers of the taxes to providers of the taxes, to get people more on the tax roll. So that's another conversation I'd like to have at some point. That's it.
Okay. Ken? Yes, thank you. I'm kind of jotted my notes down, and some of you all hit on some of the topics I wanted to talk about. So I'll start off. I don't want to classify folks, but there's kind of 3 kinds of folks that approaches me from being on council. Is the no growth, is the people that lock the gate, don't let anybody else in, right? I don't want any more taxes. I paid my taxes when I was raising my kids. Why do I have to pay my taxes now? And I respond back to them to Robert's point about, hey, you know, my kid's already been to school. Why do I have to pay for these kids' schools? And my response back to them is very simply, well, when your kids were in school, what if the senior citizens at that time or the folks that have retired at that time, how did they have the same attitude as you do? You know, we live in a community, and everybody supports the community. Then you've got the folks that are saying, hey, growth at any cost. Build it, build it, build it. And then, you know, the response back to them is, well, do you want to live in a community where maybe right next door to you there's a Kmart or a junkyard? There's zoning. There's purposes for zoning and codes and the smart growth, right? And that leads me into the smart growth. I mean, you know, anybody that lives in the state of Florida, I don't care what city you live in the state of Florida, pick the worst city in the state of Florida that you would never ever want to live in. They're growing. There's not a city or community in the state of Florida that's not growing. I don't care. I'm not going to pick out any names, but I got a few that I was like, why the heck?
Just don't say it.
No, none of it's in Citrus County. How's that sound? But there are some communities where you drive through saying, oh my gosh, why would anybody in the world want to live here? But you know what? They're growing. And you can tell they're growing because they're building, right? So, you know, I believe it was Doug, I'm not sure. But, you know, the route that you chose, you know, the A route, I'm kind of against that route because I want the routes to be closer to residential areas or commercial areas or cities because I don't want the urban sprawl. I mean, it's like the field of dreams. Build it and they will come. If you build a road out in the middle of nowhere, at some point there will be construction and development along that road. So I'd rather it stay closer to centers where there's already cities or growth or something like that. You know, some of the land that Route 8 was going through, I've camped up there, I've been up there. That's really pretty country, and I guarantee there's folks that moved up there for that reason, and probably don't want a big old expressway coming through their backyard. So I'm kind of liking the routes that kind of keep it closer to us, but to your point, going around us, not necessarily through us. I do have to hit tourism just one last time, be my last salvo of the day. I want to thank Commissioner Kennard because I think he understood what I was trying to say. I wasn't saying that there's too many tourists and we got to stop tourists. I was just saying there's got to be a better way to manage it because, you know, not only do we want the tourist here, because we need the tourist here. I mean, honestly, I'd rather have the tourist in Crystal River than a cement factory. I get it. But I also represent the folks that vote for me, and they live in Crystal River, and we've got to figure out a way to have, I don't want to call it a compromise, because it's not a compromise. We just got to find a way, and maybe through education and communication, for us all to coexist together. Commissioner, she nailed what I had read right here. I put in big bold letters, spread the love. You know, TDC does a great job bringing folks to Citrus County. That's great. Do you know what? I'm a hiker. I hiked. Do you know what beautiful trails we have in the Withlacoochee Forest? I mean, we've got some of the best hiking trails that I've been in anywhere in the state. We don't talk about it. We got the Withlacoochee State Bike Trail coming through.
I would have to say you haven't read our advertising.
Well, all I see is manatee, 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 manatee,
well, you
manatee.
don't read our advertising.
You got me there. Yeah. I'll put it on my list, read advertisement.
There you go. I put that at the top of your list.
But, you know, to spread the love. I mean, in 2024, I don't know if you all know this, but in 2024, Three Sisters is going to be closed for 7 months because they're doing a shoreline restoration project. That's both the land portion, the water access, and the shoreline on the run. For 7 months, it's going to be closed. There's going to be a lot of folks coming to Citrus County, the Crystal River, that's not going to have the Three Sisters experience. We got to plan for that. And that's where Holly's example of I'm sorry if I didn't mean to insult anybody, but we got to put the advertising, spread the love. Bring them into Citrus County. There's a lot of things to do here than just go for the manatee. Manatee is good for a day. But what about, we don't want them here just for a day and then go home. We don't want the day trippers coming up here, then going and then maybe stopping at McDonald's on the way home back to Tampa or Orlando. We want them to come here and stay here. The only way we're going to come here to stay here is by showing them other things within Citrus County they can do other than swimming with a manatee for a few hours. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing nobody has the card up yet, with all due
I'll take
respect,
that.
I'm going to jump on that and say, I would suggest you attend the
And I did
TDC
it
meeting.
Well, I'm
You
actually.
got- no, let me finish.
Okay.
Here's where we are.
Be
For
respectful.
years, we've said, and I've asked the TDC, what happens if the manatees go away tomorrow? Okay, if the manatees left tomorrow, what would we do? And for years, we have been focused on other things besides the manatees. If you look at the latest tourist guides, you see beautiful pictures of Inverness, the bike path. We've started concentrating on cultural aspects because, you know, our marketing shows what people come for. One of the reasons we've exploded in tourists is people want to do things outside. They don't want to stand in lines at amusement parks. So we've always seen the manatees, and this is what everybody agreed is, it was the low-hanging fruit. It's the only place you can come in the country and swim with them. And so that was the low-hanging fruit. But all the things you said, we've realized years ago. We don't want people coming for one day. The TDC's job is not to bring tourists here. The TDC's job is to put heads in beds. Okay? That's what we do, heads in beds. If they don't stay in a hotel, then we're not meeting our mandate. So the only reason I point that out is that we've said, now that you're here for the manatees, go over to Inverness and look what they have, and go down to Floral City. And so I'm just kind of floored by the fact that you would say what you said, not realizing what we've been spending years working on. Now, maybe what you see is manatee, 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 but if you open up any of the tourist guides that we publish, you'll see. Yes, we talk about manatees, and I can tell you manatees are the most popular thing on social media. When they post, everybody loves manatees. But now we say, okay, well, you've come and see the manatees, but we want you to spend a week. We don't want you to spend just a day. So again, I'm not on the TDC anymore, but I just think before you start saying all we do is talk about manatees, 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 you need to see what it is the TDC actually does. So,
Well, in all due respect, Commissioner, sometimes I think you need to listen what I'm saying versus just getting defensive of what I
wrote
think
down
I said.
precisely what you said.
So anyway, I know that the TDC advertises something. I said, do more spreading the love. And, you know, when you go to Clark County, Nevada, nobody knows what Clark County, Nevada is. That's where Las Vegas is. But when people come to Citrus County, they tend to come to Crystal River foremost. And all I'm saying is that there's other important things in the county that can be attractive to our visitors. I'm not naive in the fact that the TDC advertises other things in the county, but I think you would agree with me that the majority of the promotion within Citrus County is directed towards Crystal River. That's all I'm saying. And I don't want to go back and forth on this anymore. So I'm going to end my discussion right now. But when you basically say I'm naive to what the TDC says, I do take a little bit of personal offense on that because I've lived here for a while. I've served here for a while. I know what the TDC does. I'm only reflecting to you, sir, what I see and what my constituents see in Crystal River are telling me. That's all I'm saying. But again, I'm not going to go back and forth anymore. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. We can agree to agree or we can agree to disagree, but we'll end it right there.
well, that's fine. And like I said, I don't take offense. You were the one actually that.
Well, actually, no, you kind of.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I will.
Took a little bit of a direct punch
Yeah,
at me.
it is. And I was. Okay, Mr. Mayor, yes.
All right. Just a couple of words that sometimes we just get hung up on Crystal River or whatever and the manatees, but really we need to go ahead and market Citrus County. And of course, that includes a small town done right. And we've got great bass fishing. We've got bass fishing tournaments every year now. Good things are happening over there as well. So we're doing good. But one of the things that I wanted to mention was I happened to catch a program on what this water teemed with years ago, and it was tarpon. And what happened with the pollution, as what I caught snippets of, was that the pollution got into the freshwater areas and destroyed the crab population. So the crabs couldn't come up and spawn and create all the new crabs. And those are the things that the tarpon fed on. And so what happened eventually is we lost a major tourist attraction for sportsmen, and that was tarpon fishing. And I think somehow with the TDC and the county and some of the things that we're doing now, we need to get to that point where we don't have that pollution anymore. We create a bigger crab population again and get those tarpon coming back up. Not only do we have the manatees then, but we have the tarpon. So you got bass fishing tournaments, you got tarpon tournaments, and I know we do have those tournaments, but you get some big hitters that come in then when you've got prolific amount of tarpon coming up into our waters. So that's something we really need to think about too. So, bring that back. We're bringing a lot of good things back that we had, like sandy bottoms, and truly, when I first started coming up in here 35, 40 years ago, we had a lot of sandy bottoms in a lot of areas, and now, we're starting to get there again with one rake at a time and doing all the good things that we're doing. So I commend the county and the city of Crystal River for what's taking place in that, in the state, of course. And I think that's a wonderful way to get us back on track again, to develop a wholesome atmosphere with clean rivers, clean bays, and develop a massive tourism aspect from that. So from a small town done right, and on behalf of them, I got to go. But thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
just
Mayor.
have an appointment I have to get.
Yeah, and in the end, all that discussion on a positive note, I'll just remind everybody that both cities have a representative on the TDC board. Okay, so I would encourage both cities to put your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas to your representatives and have them take them to the TDC, and then have your representatives come back and give a report on that committee that they serve on, so that if these ideas aren't lost between when we discuss them here. That's just the thought. Okay, then, let's see, next up here I have Jeff. I'm sorry, what?
I'll say a couple words. And it'll just
Sure,
be-
I have you down here, but if you want to, go ahead.
You don't have me down?
I do have you down, but if you want to go now, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I can wait for you whenever you want.
Okay, I was just going to say I had Jeff up next, then I had Scott, and then I had Linda. That was the order I had them in. So, okay, Jeff.
Thanks. The book that the mayor was talking about is Lords of the Fly. I'm glad he brought it back up. A great book, and the author lays out beautifully what happened to what used to be the trophy tarpon fishing mecca of the world. Literally, people from everywhere came here to catch giant tarpon, and not to spend too much time on it, but that's the name of the book. Really good book, a really good read for anybody that's interested. The cleaning up the waters is really goes back to infrastructure. The sewer projects that are going on down in Homosassa and around the county, both of the cities, we need to stay focused on doing those things. Of all the other things that we do, we need to be good stewards of our environment, and a big part of that is continuing to move forward with these projects that cities have got on the books, the county has on the books, and we will clean up our groundwater. It's not going to happen overnight. She's not here today to talk about it or to accept the accolades, but Commissioner Slaybaugh went to Tallahassee, and I think had good conversation with Senator Simpson, and ended up bringing back $3 or $4 million for a sewer project at the head of the Homosassa River. Great, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be getting done, both in the cities and in the county, to try and clean up these waters and leave a better environment than what we found it. The work that Save Crystal River is doing and the Homosassa River restoration, those projects are working. There's seagrass everywhere, it seems like, in Crystal River, where there wasn't not too long ago. Massive nice seagrass beds. I'm fortunate right now we're renting a condo out on the river, and to watch the number of manatees come by every day. It's entertaining every day that we've been there, just to see them go by, and they'll stop. There'll be numerous manatees out there at times eating seagrass that the people who've lived there a long time said, we never had this. We never had all this grass out here around the docks. And it's lush beds. And, you know, we're getting not only state recognition of that project, but national recognition of just how wildly successful that project has been, and likely will be used in other areas around the state.
Great. Okay. Let's see, Scott?
Thank you. Well, the good news is, and Mr. Councilman Holmes, we both sit on the spring steering committee. We just had his, and I want you to chime in because I'm sure I'll miss some things. But SwiftMud, actually, we got good news on Wednesday that we've getting, I think, 3 different projects in the county that septic to sewer. Inverness is getting one. We're getting a package plant taken off, and I think Chris River's getting something. But they started a study. We've got the largest seabed grass area off our coast here, and goes from Pasco County all the way up to Levy County. But they they're starting a study with multiple agencies in that study, and so they are looking at the issues that that book had, with the crabs and that. But so they are starting to do a study. Multiple agencies involved, and so we're going to start getting some good feedback. And you kick in on maybe what else I can miss.
Like I say, the FDEP and everything are starting the process to do that. We probably, or the TDC probably needs to kind of put a publicized effort, just a bargain there for what they're doing, what's happening in the government programs and everything. Same way with Save First River, what we're doing to try and bring back the estuaries and the marine life that I grew up knowing and seeing every day at 12 years old.
Okay, Scott, did you have anything else?
No, that was just, I just wanted to let everybody know that Wednesday we've got that news where they have FDEP and other state agencies, along with some universities, have started this study, and it's going to be like a 5-year, I think, study, and so I think that they're starting to look at those issues and to keep that seabed estuary alive off our coast. So.
Great. Linda?
Yeah, just I heard people mentioning mental health personnel, Holly, I think you did, and I wanted to tell you that within the school system we've added 11 psychologists, or have 11 psychologists. We have counselors we've added, social workers we've added to it, and these people work with teachers if necessary. If teachers have an issue they want to discuss, they can go to some of these people outside of the school system, but supported by the school system in terms of what they do. And then the children can go to the people that I named within the school system, the counselors and the social workers and all, to help them with the problems that you talked about, because the school system is a reflection of society itself, the whole of society. So if there were no problems in the whole of society, we have no problems in the school system. But that's not what life is about. And we have these people that the students can go to talk and say, I'm angry, what do I do when I'm this angry? And that person, some PhD, some master's level. And my background is mental health too. I have a master's in therapy. So we're very aware of that. And if you're aware of anything that we need, again, to focus on, that you think that we haven't focused enough on, please tell us. Because we are there to try to solve it. The problems that we can solve, we can help solve. And we want to hear about it, so please do. And thank you very much, commissioners, again, for being supportive of that direction that the school system is taking.
Great. I had mental health down here, the big star around it. I know we want to come back and talk about that.
First, I would just like to commend the TDC for going and swinging in the direction of promoting Citrus County as a nature coast, and there's many more aspects than just the manatees. I mean, when you think about how fortunate we are to live in a county that has 27-mile chain of lakes, has Withlacoochee River running east to west, has multiple first and second magnitude springs, has the Gulf of Mexico along the coast. Give me another county in the state of Florida that has those kind of natural aspects to it. There's none. So push that. As a young man, I don't remember ever seeing a manatee. Now, Joe, being in Crystal River, Homosassa, until I was 20-some years old. So, yeah, that could happen. They could leave, and if they did, I think we need to promote our county as number one. When I had the RE/MAX franchises, I'd always sit down in the closing room and people would say, why'd you come here? You know, the first thing on the mouth was quality of life. That we have such a quality of life here, they may not make as much money or anything else. So I think when we're talking about the turnpikes and expressways and everything coming through, that's one thing to keep in the back of our mind, that people do come here for quality of life, and we need to kind of protect it.
It's funny I have that circled here. I talked about this almost every year, but to me, that's what it's all about. Everything that we do should be filtered through the quality of life filter. You know, how will that impact it? How will it enhance it, and so on. As I don't see quite any more things up, tents up so far, let me loop back around before we leave this subject and go on to mental health. Just out of curiosity, I know it's very early in the process. I'm giving you a lot of preface here. On the data that we now see, which is very, very limited, and from what we see in front of us, does anybody around, and we're not taking an official vote or an official position because what you think today could change tomorrow. Have I covered all those bases enough now? Does anybody around this table think that the no-build option for the turnpike or whatever is a viable solution? Does anybody think a no-build option is a reasonable? I've heard two people around the table say it's not, including myself. I'm just curious about anybody else. Do you think that's a?
No, I don't think it is. I think
Okay.
you got to be. Growth is here. Growth is coming. We've got to be in front of growth. And you know, that's why we were advocates of getting the Suncoast to 19, because you know, we get that up to 19, it's going to help Crystal River tremendously. Even if Turkey Oak's not done for a while, but you get it up to 19, and you're going to get the trucks that are going to hit the toll road, and they're going to bypass the city, and it's going to help there a lot. But whether we like it or not, we all know that tourism is here in the state of Florida. There's more people moving to the state of Florida today because we're open for business. We have a great governor. We have a great legislative in Tallahassee, and people want to come here. Every single day they're moving to California. You see it in New Jersey, wherever. They're coming to Florida because it's open for business, and we're not slowing down. But we've got to be in front of growth, and that's smart growth. And you get behind the 8 ball, it's tremendously tough to catch up. So I don't think I don't support a no build. I support finding the best route for everybody to move forward with.
Okay, Linda.
I agree completely. No build isn't an option. We need roads, people are coming, people are here, we've got to move them around. The state does think very far in the future. A little story, my in-laws moved here in '73 and bought Cypress Lodge, and at the closing they were warned that they were going to widen Highway 44 west of Inverness, and it happened in 2000. So, you know, no telling how long things take. We already have to deal with, and I was for the Suncoast Parkway coming through. It was another road that had to be built. We needed to move people. It's good for us to go south. We already have to deal with what's going to happen with that interchange at 44 and the impact on our county, and especially Crystal River. People tend to go west, but we're all going to have an impact on it. I don't see, though, the alternatives, central and south, ending terminus. That many more people on 19 in the Crystal River area is going to be a help in any way, though. I don't see how we're going to deal with that. That's going to look worse than South 19 and all the congestion.
Okay.
So, looking at, before I learn more, that the first two alternatives are the best. And it seems like the Turnpike is a north-south corridor, and now they're coming west, and as I said, ending it on 19 doesn't seem to be a good solution.
Okay. Joe, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just want to answer your question. Absolutely, I do not think the no-build option is a viable position. I don't think I articulated myself well when DOT was here, but I do think that it's irresponsible for us to take the position that, no, we don't want it, you know, and not to actually understand what's happening. Like Commissioner Carnahan said, that, you know, we've got a huge number of folks moving here. They're going to continue to move here. This area is on fire right now. If we don't do anything, I can tell you it's just going to be a complete cluster, and that's the reality of it. You know, and so what's the best thing? We can make a decision once we get some more data as to where it's going and all that. So yeah, no build is not a viable. It's an irresponsible position for a government to take, given that they know that the situation, the growth is coming to the area. So it's sticking your head in the sand. If you take, in my opinion, you take that. Commissioner Carney, I think, is right as well. The ultimate, from a Chris River standpoint, you talk about a bypass. That's Suncoast Parkway going to 19. I mean that, Turkey Oak. That's a little, Suncoast Parkway dead ending into US 19 for through traffic. People run, that's the bypass right there. So I think from our position, we should be, and I think we all are in the county advocating for that to happen. That solves a lot of these issues, internal road issues. So I think we should be big advocates, and I think we're all on record as, advocating that the parkway needs to keep going north.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get us back around to. So I would agree, in my understanding, and we've sent letters to this effect, is that we have always been in favor of continuing the Suncoast Parkway through Citrus County North. Okay? Don't think anybody disagrees with that. So again, not putting any words in anybody's mouth, but based on the information that we have this minute, is there anybody around this table that thinks that our position should be to advocate for a no-build position on this, dealing with the Turnpike extension? See, to me, that's kind of a pretty solid place to start from. So I think what we're all saying is we realize something's going to have to be done, so the devil's going to be in the details now. What do they propose? How do we see that impacting our community? Right. What can we advocate for? Those types of things. So I think that's a good starting point because, if we know we're not divided against ourselves from the get-go, I think that can have a big benefit. So we can check that one off, as I think is a big plus for today. So if we only got that determined. Okay, so let's go into mental health. Well, I know that was another big issue. And we did talk about infrastructure, I think, but we can go back and deal with broadband and infrastructure and all that.
Yeah, just one last comment on that. As far as the MPO goes, obviously, the MPO is very unlikely to take any action on it until each of our respective boards takes a position, and then your representatives can take that to the MPO. Hernando County, they're not even in the study area, so those folks are going to say, look, this is your area. You guys tell us what you want to do, and with history as a guide, the Hernando County folks are going to support what Citrus County wants, what our position is. And then our Transportation Planning Board will take a position on it as well. Mental health care, I want to make sure that we touched on that before we finished up today at some point. He's not here today to continue advocating for it, but I believe Ken Hinkle was the one that started that conversation. If he didn't, he was a major driver in the conversation of bringing mental health care to the forefront and getting everybody together on the same page that this needs to be a priority. We need to get a Baker Act facility in the county, and that was, 2 or 3 years ago now. Everybody agreed that needs to be a focus. We've been continued pushing down that road. Hopefully Livestream is going to get that done. It looks like there's some cooperation potentially happening between Citrus County and Hernando County. I don't know that anything like that has ever happened for a facility like what they're talking about. So I'd like for, hopefully, all boards are still united and making sure that we see this thing across the finish line.
Has anybody changed their position on that? I mean, it seems for 2 years we've stood behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody feel any different about it now? I think we're going to keep plugging forward, like you said, with that.
Yeah.
So. And that's important because when one board brings it up, we have to know we're kind of united on all this.
Yeah.
So.
Very important.
Any other comments other than keep pushing on the mental health process? Yes, ma'am.
Time for a new topic, or?
Well, let me make sure I wrapped up mental health. Anybody else to talk? I mean, I think our position is we want to stay the course and don't let up on what we thought was important for the last 2 years, right? Getting that facility, getting it here.
Yeah.
Anybody disagree with that? Anything else to add on the topic? Okay, now we're ready to move on. Holly?
While we have all the leaders in the room, or a fair number of them, I wanted to give a brief update on where we are with the strategic plan for the county. And instead of doing the massive town halls, Well, first, let me back up a sec. UCF, the person that was going to be running it, bailed on us, so we are now with FSU. Unfortunately, not a Gator situation. It's a Seminole situation, but it is what it is. This particular facilitator comes very highly recommended, and he actually suggested something that I think was a good pivot, and that is to do working groups for 2 8-hour days, working groups, and it will be done the first week in April. The people that are automatically shortlisted are because it's invitation only, people that are automatically shortlisted are all the people that headed up committees for Vision 2020 and Vision 2030 because they've done a lot of this work already. All of the electeds get to do a lot of this stuff on their day-to-day basis, so we need to hear from folks in the community and have their input. I've also had a few discussions with folks, and I think it would be important to have some up-and-coming youngins that are under 40 that are sitting at those tables too. I'm old enough now that under 40 is young. And the amazingly capable Veronica Kamshor is putting together the list. So if any of you have any thoughts on because I want it to be as objective as possible. If you have any thoughts, I would encourage you to reach out to Veronica because certainly we want some school representation. I would think we'd want school representation there. That's how I know how desperate the school system is right now with substitute teachers. Because one of my, spitball moments when I saw Sam Himmel, I said, okay, I need to make this objective. How about if we invite your last 2 teachers of the year? And she goes, is it a weekday? And I said, yes. She goes, can't do it. Can't do it. There are no substitutes. So, which I thought was really sad. But that would be a way to get somebody probably that's younger and very committed in the school system there. And it's not the typical leadership of, school board and whatnot. So if any of y'all have any ideas, I implore you, please, this needs to be very much a community buy-in project. Talk to Veronica.
I'd just like to mention that the working groups are going to be basing their discussions off of 2 community input sessions that are open to all public members that's
Thank you.
not invitation only. So there will be community input gathered first and then given to these working groups to determine the strategic plan.
Okay, anything else?
Actually, I will say one other thing. When I was up in Tallahassee, I met with the administrator for Leon County just as a sort of, we started talking strategic planning because it's something that's very near and dear to his heart. And one of the things I love the most about this is to make a strategic plan exceptionally valuable and a living document is he said, because I asked him, I said, how long have y'all had a strategic plan? He goes, didn't have one until I got here. And he said every single important agenda item, I won't say it's every agenda item like bids and whatnot, but every important agenda item on the BOCC's agenda, you have that little box at the bottom of ours that has the financial impact. Theirs also has how does this relate to the strategic plan, which I thought was brilliant. And to always make sure that that is front and center as we move forward. And obviously it's a living document that is updated every few years and so on and so forth. And he gave me it's like a glossy 8-page brochure that encapsulates the strategic plan. And I think he said there's 157 backup action items that back up everything that's in that brochure, but you have that brochure so it's very digestible by citizens and whatnot. So it was a really, really good chance meeting with Vince up there. So
thank you. Is there any other big topics that we didn't talk about today that anybody wants to kind of get out there? I mean, we've talked about, what I have so far is we're going to increase our discussion about tourism. We're going to have better communication between the TDC and the cities to make sure that we're all listening to each other and not arguing and whatever, right? Okay.
No argument.
That we feel disagreement. Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
I call it a spirited philosophical discussion. That's what I like to call it. So anyway, with that, also what I heard today is that from what I'm hearing right now, the collegial bodies in Citrus County are basically in agreement that when it comes to these new roads, that the no build is not an option based on what we see in front of us now. That we're going to hold. We want Livestream to stay the course on the direction that everybody has given with the creation of the facility, and that infrastructure remains top, and that deals with water quality and road, all that kind of thing. And what I'm hearing is we do have that unified voice in those things that we talked about today, have we not? I mean, at least we can agree on that. Okay, great. And the other thing I think we can agree on is it's Friday and we want to get moving out of here today. So we're going to move into closing comments, and I'm going to start on the end with the very talkative today, Linda Vega.
Not again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, just 1 second. I'm sorry. That's why I love having the mayor up here beside me. He's pointing these out. Randy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we've created an infrastructure task force on that. There are about 30 people on that. I know that the school districts, the two cities, and everybody, all participants, is required to be able to seek funding from the state through their infrastructure money for broadband. It is not used to do competitive broadband. In other words, just because they don't like spectrum or don't like the price or whatever, because they control about 85% of the market, that doesn't qualify. It has to meet certain standards of underserved. There are some legal and practical issues we got to work through, such as if there are private roads out there, we as the county can't go down that road. Okay, we can't do anything to create that without money at the state law currently. But they will be doing, I would encourage everybody to participate. The one that's actually got the most knowledge about where there are gaps in service is the school district, because they have students everywhere.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. I was going to say, Chuck and Ken, and I don't know if Eric's still here or not, but if you guys had any closing comments, we'll get you before we start around the table. Yes?
Just two comments. One is out of my area. It involves what Mr. Holmes brought up, and I just want to state that with the recent pandemic, we've had more issues than we normally do. A lot of it is kind of brought on by that, because I've been hearing it too. And the other is, I just want everyone to keep in mind that schools are infrastructure. Just like roads and water and sewer, they are defined as infrastructure. They're required, and our levels of service are set by the state. So the school board doesn't actually get to set the levels of service, and it makes it more challenging, but they are infrastructure.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. Ken, you have any comments?
Yes, I was really glad to see the discussion on this Turnpike extension. I think the general public's been kind of sleepy to that, because they keep hearing Suncoast Parkway, Suncoast Parkway. You have this other thing that's been working its way up here. To me, the Suncoast Parkway is somewhat local traffic, just to this region. That Turnpike extension is traffic starting from Miami coming up here, so we all collectively need to be on board as a unit as to what our wishes are. So I really commend the group doing that. I know Randy tendered his resignation effective the 29th of November, but I just want to publicly say thank you, Randy. I've learned a lot working with you, and you've done a great job for the county.
Thanks, sir. Yeah. Is Eric still here, or did he leave already?
He had an emergency.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, now, Linda, give you opportunity to think about what you wanted to say.
I like that comment, the schools are infrastructure. Enjoyed the meeting very much, informative. It is good to see so many people on the same page for the good of all of our communities and for the county. It's nice to be a part of that and to group talk and hear what everybody's concerns are and how we can work together to help get this done. And I think the roads are extremely important. I'm hearing from FDOT. The mayor brought up a lot of points about, we have been waiting forever for something to be done with Highway 41 North. It's just a horrendous road and has been for a long time. Hopefully the state will get going on that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank
Linda?
Just want to mention, it's so nice to see all of the groups, the councils, the school board, all of us sitting here talking, understanding each other, and I really wish we would have more of these, maybe 2 a year or 3 a year, so we can get to speaking with one another, know how each other feel, and we know the personality of the other person too, so that's good. And it's like old home week, and I like that feeling.
Well, actually, I brought that up before, and people said, Ron, we can only stand you once a year, so that's why we only do it. Scott?
No, I think we hit on every big subject we needed to hit on today. It seems like everybody's thinking the same and moving the county forward. So another great meeting.
Great. Well, again, thanks all for being here. Yes, sir, Dave.
Well, thank you very much, Ron, for having this. It's like Linda said, it's good to get together and know what everybody's thinking, and also to see what support they have for different projects. And I think that the roads are a big one, because we don't get industry if we don't get roads. So, or people moving here, really, but industry is a big thing that we need. So I appreciate the opportunity to attend this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Burke.
Let's say I'm glad everybody is getting together to bring up subjects that affects everybody. Like I say, we're all looking out for the citizens of Crystal River. Like I say, growing up here, we always said, wish we could have closed the gate back then and not let them come in. But as being on the council for quite a few years, I realize it's going to happen. And I think having people on board, like I say, grappling things head on, meeting what we are doing, what we can do for the citizens of Citrus County, I think it's going in the right direction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for participating today. Ken.
All right. Well, I don't want anybody to read too much into the chair in my spirit interchange. I've known Ron for a lot of years. I'm actually living in his old house.
He made me move out after he moved.
He actually was instrumental in me joining the Waterfronts Advisory Board and then running for council, a dozen years ago. So don't read too much into us going back and forth, okay? That's number one. Number two is I agree with, I guess Linda left, or maybe it was.
She'll be back.
Maybe it was Council Member Vega. I think it should be twice a year. I think 1 year is too long of a time not to have a spirit, because you know what, I know we're all busy, but you know what, we got 2 cities and a county. We're not that busy that we can't meet twice a year, and I know this is your last year, and I'm going to miss you. I don't know about the other folks. So I'm going to miss you.
How hard that was to get out.
But I hope the BOCC who takes over the reign and continues this on. And I like the idea of twice a year. I really do. A year is a long time not to get together. And finally, we talked a lot about the Turnpike extension. We talked a lot about the Suncoast Parkway. There was a couple mentioned about Turkey Oak. We need Turkey Oak, folks, maybe as a temporary short-term fix, but we need folks, when they start coming into 44 and heading west, we're going to be inundated, and they're going to come right into 1998. And have you been there when Dunkin' Donuts opens up? It's already backed up a half a mile. It's going to be a lot worse. So we need Turkey Oak. Now, I know Ken Frank's not here, so he might have to back me up. Maybe Robert can. I think the state turned us down already for turning it into a State 44 bypass, right, Mayor? Is that correct?
I don't know.
Well, I think the state turned us down to redesignating it as a 44 state road.
That's correct.
But we could still make it a bypass, even though it doesn't have the state road designation of 44. So we still need Turkey Oak, agreed?
Yes, and they are moving forward with the study. The state is through the MPO to look at that. So that's
excellent.
Good.
And other than that, I want to thank you all, and thank you, sir. And Linda, you missed it. I backed you up. We need twice a year. So, and I'm done.
Yeah, but
maybe you could come back as a visitor.
But Ken also said as long as Ron doesn't chair. You missed that part. Okay, let's go down here to Cabot. We'll work our way back around this way. Cabot, closing comments.
Thank you. Been a good meeting, and I think that we can all agree that quality of life should be the standard that transcends every single thing that we do. And so if we keep that in mind, I think we're going to have our focus, and that will give us direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for being here. I think you've been to every single one. So many of you in this room have been to every single one, so we appreciate that. Speaking of which,
Yes.
Mr. Doug.
Hey, Ron, appreciate your leadership on putting this together, and I think it's a great idea that's worked out well for us. I will point out that we were doing the chairman. We're getting together a couple other times during the year. I think with COVID that may have shut down, but I know I met several times with Randy Oliver. We met over at the courthouse and talked about issues.
Can I step on your time?
Yes,
Just
sir.
a
Yeah.
second. I had this down. I was going to bring it up. One of the things that came up was reestablishing those quarterly meetings.
Yeah.
But first it started with the mask mandates in the courthouse. Then we got into the other COVID restrictions. And not everybody was really excited about getting into that little conference room that we have now. So that's something we may want to bring back, but I think that's why it's been kind of put to the side until everybody has this. I mean, even today, everybody was trying to get, away, kind of spread out and away from each other. But yeah, I mean, I would encourage that to come back in the future as well, too. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, but I thought I'd mention that in case we all don't get together twice a year. There is some other leadership that had been meeting, which I thought was always productive, and just a chance to share information and what's going on. So, and Linda, I think you were at one of those original, when you first got elected.
They were informative,
Yeah. So, the other thing is, with the COVID-19 pandemic and virtual education and the learning losses that we've seen in our schools with students, that we are focused heavily on that in the school district. It's something that we've got to realize that this is going to be years out that we'll be seeing some of these losses, and so we have to get focused on that academically. We want strong academic schools, and we also want safe schools. And I thought I would mention, first of all, we appreciate the County Commission's continued support. We've got a great school resource officer program that's works through the Sheriff's Office, through school resource officers at all of our elementary, middle, and high schools. And we also have guardians, 8 guardians in addition to those SROs that the school district pays for. But it has been a great partnership with the Board of County Commissioners. And I remember that meeting we had in your chambers at the courthouse one time when we were talking about all the things that we need to do after the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And we've done very well with that, and I greatly appreciate the commissioners that were a part of that. And I just want to touch on the whole issue of public safety in this community. And I appreciate there's been some tough decisions that the County Commission has made in reference to fire, in reference to EMS. I just thank you for the work that you all did there, because public safety, not only in our schools with school safety, but in this community, is still a priority. We want to live in a safe community, and we have that. And I just wanted to say thank you for the work of the County Commission there. That's all I have.
And Doug, just to dovetail on that, I think I was the chairman during that time. I think you and I actually almost had a hotline installed. I mean, every time the phone would ring, I didn't have to look. I knew it was Doug calling, and it was about. And I don't think there was a finer moment in talking about all of our groups working together as getting through that tough time when we were in the state said you must do this. School boards had to figure out how to do it, and I thought everybody came together exceptionally well. And that was a great example, I think, for the state to see how we came together and with the school board's leadership and Sam Himmel to get that situation all done. And I know the board, every time you guys came over, the board was like, sure, we're in this together. We got to do what we can help. So, and it's because we had these relationships over the year that it all comes down to trust. That's what I've always said. If you can't trust the people you're dealing with, you can't work with them. And so I always appreciate, I'm going to miss your steady, calm, guidance. I want to put.
Thank you. Hey, Ron, I will mention too that Alyssa's law went into effect this last year in 2020, and we had to meet that mandate from the state, which was a great recommendation, and that was for an immediate panic alarm system for faculty and staff, which we have in our schools, and it goes along with their ID badges. It's a small card that can be pressed, and 8 or more presses will automatically send a message to law enforcement, i.e. the 911 center. It'll go directly to the 911 center. It'll go allow for the school to be locked down immediately. Part of this mandate is that teachers have to be able to call a lockdown, and so we have that in our county and in our schools. And that is another area, another item that we have to protect students and faculty.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks all you guys do over there as well. Jeff.
Well, I'll start off by saying I'm glad to see you've already got the alarm thing to send off. I thought he was coming forward with a funding request. You know, this just passed. Oh no, here we go. No, listen, another great meeting. I truly look forward to this meeting. I don't know if we need to do them twice a year or not. I would support it if that's what the majority wanted to do, but I do look forward to it. We can air out what it is that we want to talk about from our particular boards or from our perspective, and probably more importantly, listen to what other boards have got going on and how can we make sure we're all on the same page. And certainly transportation was the discussion of the day, and it sounds like we're at least starting, as large as the page is, at least we're all on the same page there. One thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, at least mention, is celebrating each other's successes. And I know it's a cliche, it's just a tagline, but celebrating each other's successes, both publicly and privately, talking about the good things that are going on in both of our cities, talking about the good things that are going on in the county. Success in any of the entities, successes in our school system, overcoming the challenges of the state mandates that came down very heavy and very fast, and the successes that the school board is seeing. Those things, that positivity, that positive talk about what's going on and celebrating each other's successes, that's the rising tide. That's the rising tide that lifts all boats. We can make that happen. We're the center of where that happens. And much of what happens, much of the discussion that goes on out there, I think kind of takes its lead from what they hear in the private conversations. It's not what we tell the reporter when he calls, but it's what we tell our friends when we're sitting down to dinner, or if you're sitting at a bar and having a glass of wine, whatever it might be. So publicly and privately, celebrating what's happening around our county in the cities. I'm genuinely excited about what I see around our county. I started off by talking about all of us being on the same page. I heard something in a meeting yesterday that the group that went to Tallahassee for legislative days, the Chamber's legislative days, met with Representative Masulo and met with Senator Simpson and advocated for our legislative priorities. The counties, the cities, and the Chamber has their legislative priorities. One individual ran into Senator Simpson on his way out and just said, "Hey, I just want to talk with you about X, this particular project X." And I guess Senator Simpson turned around to him. He goes, "Man, you guys are coordinated. Holy smokes." He said, "We have got the cities, the county, the chamber, everybody is pushing for the same stuff for your community." Hopefully that results in a lot of our projects getting done. I hope that happens. I hope they bring home the funds that we're hoping that they do. But that, that coordination, hey, what's important to you guys? Let's get on board and support what you guys need to. This is important to the city. This is important to the school board. That we're all singing the same tune is very, very important. One last thing, I'll finish up with this, and it might be a bit of a contentious issue. I'd like for us to consider having a member of the Constitutional's office join us. We can have that discussion among your board, but our county, as we've been talking about all morning this morning, is growing. There's significant growth here. That growth does not happen and leave the sheriff or leave the supervisor of elections office out on islands. They will be involved with it. The clerk of the courts, she's going to have to be involved in what's going on. So just a thought. I want to throw it out there. I don't know how much discussion there needs to be about that, but anyway, I will leave it at that.
Great, thanks. Yes, sir.
I think the Commissioner Kennard may be kin to my pastor. He says, just one more last thing. Long-winded. I didn't know what to expect coming to this meeting the first time, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think there's been some great opinions shared and thoughts on the different topics. This is an exciting time for our county, and we ought to all be proactive in controlling the growth the way that we want it to happen, instead of sticking our head in the sand and saying it's just going to happen. TDC, just remember that there's a little town called Small Town Done Right East, and we have a great lake system for bass fishing and a great bike trail. So just a reminder. Linda had mentioned something 41, the expansion, and I was there with Holly in Tallahassee last week, and they did say all the funding is done for 41 expansion. The acquisitions will be done in 2022, 2023. It will start in construction, and it will go all the way out to the bowling alley. That's where it will cease at that point. So it's a definite been funded and going to go. And other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Glad to have you here. Thank you. Holly?
I think it was great to get some collegial consensus on the no build. At least we can say that. So managing the growth most intelligently is obviously the way to go. I want to thank several people here that gave more eloquent responses than I could come up with as a fairly newcomer to this role, because I'm going to have to start answering all the emails I've gotten on that subject, and some of the eloquent responses will be deployed. So pardon me for the plagiarism. And I do think twice a year, given how fast that we are changing right now and growing and the challenges that are ahead of us, look at what FDOT just said, that we're going to need to start looking at routes of end of summer, early fall. So having 2 meetings a year of all of us would be a really good idea, and maybe do the other semi-annual would be just the board leadership of the 3 board members, or 3 different boards. 4 different boards, not counting well. And I would be open to having the constitutionals here as well, simply because they are leading a very critical aspects of our county, and they're big brains and they bring a different perspective. It might get a little unwieldy with that many, but it is worth considering. That's it.
Before I let you speak, you may want to comment on those. Here's my feeling about those last 2 issues: more than once a year, and the constitutionals attending. And I would say, since we started this always was kind of a county-sponsored thing. You know, the BOCC. I think we pick up the tab for your sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. So we're like the sponsor. But this has always been by what we all want to do. So in my mind, probably to answer those 2 questions, everybody should go back to your individual boards and have that discussion. Do you want to have it more than once a year? And do you want to invite the constitutionals? And then we did put that together when we plan the next one, whenever that may be. And then that way you can say, you can debate it individually within your groups. I think there's pluses and minuses to both. I think I told you before, the reason we did it once a year, because you look forward to it and it's special. It's like anything else. If you do it too many times, then it's not special and you're not looking forward to it. I'd rather leave here today having people think there was something more you wanted to cover than sitting here being bored thinking you were made to sit in your seat. So again, but the quarterly meetings, that could be a good idea, or semi-annual. And as far as the constitutionals go, like I said, they're not taxing authorities, and they run their own show. They don't have to sit down and get 3 or 5 or whatever, 4 other people on board with what they want to do. So that makes this group kind of unique. But it's a board, it's a call. So if everybody thinks that's a good thing to do, that'd be my input, whatever the future boards want to do. So that was my input on those 2 comments. And Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to tell a story. I let the mayor go here because I said, I'll give you the next to the last word. Because when I was on the city council, and this was going way back, right, and I would be up on the board. I was a city council person, and I'd want to talk, and the mayor would cut me off. And I'd say, how come you cut me off? Because I'm done listening to you. And I said, so what do I got to do to talk more? And he goes, you need to run for mayor. so there you go. So,
I just a few comments to end it. I thought it a great meeting, as everyone already said. Specific to the issues, I thought we had some great discussion on infrastructure, mental health. That's great. Still continuing to be a major issue, but with the overall theme, I think today of being quality of life and how to maintain that through infrastructure and all the things that we talked about, mental health and schools. I would say, and Mrs. Powers, I thought that was great. Such a spot-on comment about schools is a reflection of the society that we live in. So you hear about the junk that sometimes happens in the schools, but that's just unfortunately the reality that we're in, and we have to deal with it and hopefully do things, work together as a community to address them. And I know we're blessed to have a great school system that does that. They got to deal with, they don't choose who they have to deal with like a lot of places and establishments can. They take everybody and they have to deal with the brokenness of the world. So you guys do a great job. You really do. I want to thank the county for putting this together every year. They do such a great job. Thank the city of Inverness. I know the mayor and Eric's not here, but I say this all the time, I want you to know this and say it sincerely. You guys paved the way with regards to from a municipality standpoint and what you guys did with Inverness, I think. It shows what it is to be a nice small town done right type thing. So you set the standard and hope to be able to follow that in Crystal River with some of the stuff that we're doing and we've done. And so to Inverness, you guys are great. And again to the county. Miss Randy Oliver, I'm gonna miss you. I had the privilege of being on the commission when Mr. Oliver was hired, and done a great job, and thank you for what you've done, and I'm grateful. Commissioner Carnahan, I don't know if we're going to have another chance, so I'm going to ramble on. I apologize. I don't know if we'll have another chance in an official meeting to say this, but since you've announced that you're not going to be running again, just want to thank you for all that you've done and for the county and continue to do, and you and your family have been just awesome. So, and same with Commissioner Kitchen. I'm sure you're still going to be around.
I'll be around.
You got to be around. But thank you for all you've done too. I mean, really, for from the city and doing what you've done in Crystal River and then Citrus County, it's just been great. So I always said, you set an example for me and others to follow. So thank you very much. Finally, I'll be quiet after this. At the end of the day, we're blessed to live in a community that people from all over the world come to. And they don't come here because of something that we built or because we have a specific industry. They come here for, like what Gene Davis said, for the quality of life and the things that we're just blessed to have, And so whatever we do, as from a government standpoint, that needs to be enhanced because, we're blessed by God's grace to have these things. Like you said, the lakes, the rivers, everything. It's just awesome. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a great
Thank
job.
you. Well, it's kind of interesting. Joe and I had kind of paths like this, right?
Yeah.
We've kind of followed paths, but they intersect and go back and forth all over the place. And again, as far as I know, it is a unique perspective to serve as a mayor and also as a county commissioner because you get to see, both sides of it. So all I want to say is this will be my last year being at this, but I will be on my back porch in my rocking chair watching what you guys do. As we said, I could live anywhere. When we moved here, I could have my business anywhere, and we chose to live in Citrus County. So now that I'm retiring next year, we could live anywhere. We're staying in Citrus County. It's our home. I can't imagine any place better to live. I really can't. And a lot of it's because of things like this. I mean, after 35 years of living in this community, I know everyone around this table. And you know what I mean. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad that you can't even go to Home Depot and you have to get into a half-hour conversation about, something. But so anyway, I just want to say that we started this 7 years ago as an idea, and I believe it has been successful, and that's because of you. If you all didn't participate and if you all didn't bring your A game to these meetings and put your emotions and thoughts and feelings out there, that's what it takes. We're passionate about our community and and we care about it, you know, and that's what makes me feel good because, you know, I'm not looking to leave. I'm going to be around, as you said. So thank you all for what you've done and what you continue to do in your investment in the community and your service to our community. I guess I can't say this often enough, but we truly are unique. I mean, if you look at other places and people that come up here and visit, they all tell me the same thing. Being down in Tampa Bay all the time, they always talk about Sister. Oh, I was up there the other day. What a beautiful place. Oh, I didn't know you guys. You know, and they go on and on and on. And so, you know, we're all stewards of that, and I think we all take that role seriously. So I'll just leave you with this, that whoever, and again, I'm just, you know, we'll have to see how it all plays out, but whoever continues this on, it'll be all of you that makes it a success. So I hope that all of you that continue in office after next year will, you know, continue to participate in this, and again, don't hold back. You know, every time you want to be diplomatic, say, well, Ron never was, so just, you know, I don't have to be. Just throw it out there and say what you want to say. So with that said, again, we're going to get out of here early. I thank you all for being here, and we'll see you soon.
All right.